Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. And I hope you enjoy this one. This story is all about what if Naruto had a crossover in Star Trek. Starts a few years before the original Star Trek series and takes place in the Star Trek universe. Featuring Vulcan, Naruto. Chapter 11 Starfleet Academy. Naruto, Infinity Divide. Starfleet Academy. Blanket disclaimer: I do not own Naruto or Star Trek. Author's note: this chapter has a 4-year time skip and it's so Naruto and Clara are both 17 now. Enjoy. Last time. Father says Talak has the potential to become a true monster at Shan. With the dancing lessons she's taking, Talak is much stronger than she looks. Those same muscles are used in Shan. She's also very fast and flexible. Of course, Talak's still little, but her potential is amazing. What does Father Sobar say about me and the martial arts? Asked Clara curiously. The blonde replied. Father said you have a lot of potential with Shan, but he wants to teach you Panifla. He said your body type is perfect for it. Panifla is a defensive art, isn't it? Asked Clara. Yes, it is designed to defend against multiple opponents and use their own strength against them, said Naruto. It's kind of the opposite of my Karilifla that relies so much on power and strength. Well, you have plenty of strength to spare, said the brunette, amused. On the other hand, it is really convenient when something heavy needs to be moved. She learned it against Naruto and said, let's just sit here for a while. It is very comfortable leaning against you. Naruto put his arm around Clara and she closed her eyes. I wonder what tomorrow will bring, thought Naruto. Chapter 11. Stardate 2271.253, Planet Vulcan, The Forge. A speeder bike roared across the desert with two figures on its back in body-fitting uniforms and helmets. They were clipping along at 500 kilometers per hour. The smaller figure on back was watching an instrument gauge readout as the larger figure effortlessly threaded between obstacles in the desert. Kicking the air brakes, they spun 180 degrees and came to a halt. The driver took off his helmet, showing his spiky blonde hair, and looked back over his shoulder. He said, "What do you think, Clara?" At 500 k's everything felt smooth as glass. Clara took off her own helmet and shook out her long brown hair. Everything is exceeding our expectations, Naruto. The new fittings not only allow us to brake and turn in half the distance we previously needed, but the acceleration to 500 k's is 25% faster. I wish my little VK650S had this kind of power. She hopped off the speeder bike and admired the crimson red machine. It took us 4 years to fully restore this beauty. After riding it for a year, I still don't see why you don't race it. You've got the skill, and 500 k's per hour is nothing for this speeder bike. Naruto shrugged. I'm just happy to have it, whether it is race qualified or not. Anyway, your VK650 Sport is upgraded enough to participate in the lightweight racing course. Thanks to you rebuilding it, the thrust-to-weight ratio is unbelievable compared to a stock one. I'd bet you've set a new standard, Clara. Clara blushed slightly and said, thank you for your praise, but my little 650 Sport has nothing on your 220R. She admired her betrothed for a moment. He had grown into a lean, muscular young man standing at 186 centimeters. Clara had grown likewise into a very curvaceous and beautiful young woman standing at 155 centimeters. Neither had experienced their pond far yet, but they already accepted each other fully as husband and wife. They'd both grown in the martial arts as well. Clara was a 5th level adept at Shan and a 7th level adept at Panifla. Naruto was now a 4th level master at Karilifla and a 2nd level master of Shan. He'd been in several competitions and was really pushing his limits to match his father's level. The beautiful brunette said, I graduated from the Vulcan Technical Institute this last year. We're both 17 and I really want to join Starfleet, Naruto. I've been talking to Mother Tara about her adventures in space and it's amazing. I know you've considered becoming a professor and continuing your education, but space seems so much more exciting. Naruto sighed. He wanted to join Starfleet, but his mother had already said a war could well be on the horizon. The Fourth Klingon-Xinti War was winding down to an inconclusive end, so the Klingon were once again a threat. Likewise, the Romulans were using Klingon technology now thanks to the Klingon-Romulan Treaty of Smarba and were a threat on the opposite Federation border. As a result, Starfleet had massively increased their recruiting and the Navy was expanding. One Starfleet recruiter basically said the Navy would give Naruto an officer's commission on a silver platter if he agreed to join. The blonde had 2 doctorates thanks to his multitasking with shadow clones and was very desirable to the Starfleet as a result. As for Clyra, she was perfectly happy with the idea of being an enlisted crew member as long as she was in the engineering division. The blonde was torn. Stardate 2271.267, Shirkar City, Starfleet Recruiter's Office. It had been 2 weeks since their last discussion and Naruto had corresponded with his friend Commander Spock about joining Starfleet. He had also spoken a great deal to his mother Terra over time. As it stood, Clyra was to be accepted into Starfleet without issue because Terra wrote a letter of recommendation for her. Naruto was fortunate that Commander Spock was willing to do the same for him without question. The enlisted personnel went to a larger part of the building. Naruto and the other would-be officers were in a more specialized area. Naruto was given a routine physical and then was shoved in a waiting room with other hopefuls. Soon the blonde's name was called, and Naruto was sitting with a human officer in his mid-20s. "I'm Lieutenant David Cruz," said the recruiter who was interviewing Naruto. "I understand that you wish to join Starfleet as an officer, Naruto." "That is correct, sir," answered the blonde. Cruz looked over the paperwork on his desk and said, "You have 2 doctorates from the Vulcan Science Academy at the age of 17. That's incredibly impressive. One is in astrophysics with a minor in astrodynamics and the other is in genetics with a minor in xenobiology. Those are very different areas of study for Naruto. May I inquire as to why you chose those particular fields?" Naruto nodded. "I prefer to have a well-rounded field of knowledge. I didn't wish to be limited in my career choices." The lieutenant took down some notes and asked, "Why did you choose Starfleet?" "There are 2 main reasons," said the spiky-haired blonde. "My betrothed is entering Starfleet and my mother is a lieutenant commander in Starfleet. It is in my family, you see." "Is your mother the officer who sponsored you?" asked the recruiter. "No, I am sponsored by Commander Spock, who is the executive officer of the USS Enterprise," answered Naruto. Cruz raised his eyebrows. "Commander Spock is quite famous, you know." Naruto replied, "I have had a correspondence with Commander Spock for years. I grew up knowing his mother, Lady Amanda Grayson." The recruiter took some further notes and said, "You've already passed the physical, so we'll be running a battery of tests on you to see what fields of duty you are best at. That doesn't mean you couldn't be in another branch, of course. What branch were you hoping to serve in? Command, engineering, sciences, security?" "Science would be my first choice," answered Naruto. "I believe I'm best suited for that." Cruz took some more notes down and said, "I'm going to take you to a learning station to test your aptitude now. There is no reason to be nervous given your education. There are a lot of questions that gauge your personality, so there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer. Do you understand?" Naruto wanted to sigh. "More testing." "I understand perfectly, sir." Naruto stood at a testing station answering questions for nearly 3 hours. He found that about a quarter of them were psyche test questions and were very repetitive. "This is highly illogical. I have answered this same test question 5 times with different wordings each time. Twice would be sufficient." One of the most illogical questions that Naruto found was, "How do you refer to members of the Klingon Empire? A. The enemy. B. The Klingon. C. The Ridgeheads. D. All of the above." Naruto's blue eyes nearly bugged out. What the hell kind of a question is this? What were they smoking when they created this test? Is this to weed out racists? Next, the blonde hybrid was given several basic Starship tactical challenges which he solved easily enough. Questions on the history of the United Federation of Planets were next. All in all, the 3 hours went by fairly quickly. Finally, the test screen went blank and the computer said, "Thank you for participating. Please return to the waiting room for further instructions. Cruz was looking at Naruto's test with glazed eyes. He'd shown the results to the staff, and they were all equally bewildered. This boy, he uses the most unorthodox tactics I've ever seen in my life. He always won in the simulations, but I've never seen anything like it. In order to win those you are supposed to lose, he actually captured his opponent's vessels to use against other enemy ships. Put this one in the fast track for command, not sciences, Mr. Cruz, said his commanding officer. But he wanted science, sir, said the baffled Cruz. His commander said imperiously, then make him want command more. You're the recruiter. Yes, sir, said Cruz weakly. Plyra was waiting for Naruto outside by the bike when the blonde sauntered out. She was beaming. Naruto, I've been accepted as a crewman recruit that specializes in engineering. It's just what I wanted. How did you do? The blonde hybrid said glumly, they said to come back in a week because my application is under review. Plyra's eyes flickered dangerously. Your abilities and references are impeccable. You are my man. There is no reason to review anything. What are those illogical humans doing in there? I ought to dash. Naruto gave his mate a tiny smile as he gently took her hand in his. There are probably extenuating circumstances we can't fathom at this point. Let's get on the bike and go back to my place and relax. We'll talk to Mother there. Tara and Sovar's house. Naruto pulled into the garage and parked the VK-220R in its usual place. Plyra had been rather disgruntled about the situation and was worried that she was accepted, and Naruto wasn't. Naruto, on the other hand, was more curious than anything else. I think I'm in, but there must be some kind of hold-up. The blonde figured his mother would have the answer but wasn't sure if Tara ever had anything to do with recruiting others. A 9-year-old Talek opened the door, revealing her dancer's body and how much she was growing to look like her beautiful mother. Naruto, Plyra, how did it go? Plyra took off her helmet and said, I was accepted, but Naruto was told to come back in a week. Naruto took his own helmet off and nodded in agreement. I believe I passed all of their requirements. It is most puzzling. That seems rather illogical, said Talek with her eyebrow raised the exact same way Tara and Naruto raised theirs. Logic doesn't seem to be a deciding factor there, said Plyra. Everyone I was introduced to was a human. The three walked inside the house and Talek shook her head. That doesn't sound very promising. Why would they have human recruiters here on Vulcan? Tara overheard their conversation and said, Starfleet is dominated by humans and the percentages show that Vulcans are terrible at recruiting others because we are too honest and frank about the facts. Starfleet isn't all fun and adventures, as I've told you time and again. So, humans intentionally gloss over the facts, Mama? Asked Talek. That sounds very misleading. It would be more appropriate to say they are inclined to omit less savory facts about space travel and naval duties, explained Tara. Plyra asked, Mother Tara, can you think of a reason they would ask Naruto to come back in a week instead of accepting him like they did the others? Tara looked at her son for a moment and asked, Did you do anything unusual on their entrance exams, Naruto? Special cases arise where someone is a bit too good for standard training and they fast-track them, though it's rare. I can't think of anything I don't normally do on tests, said Naruto. That's when he noticed all three females were staring at him with flat looks on their faces. Tara's eyes glittered with humor. How did you do on the test when your ship was outnumbered 3-1? Naruto thought for a moment and said, I did the logical thing. I charged the lead enemy vessel, captured it with boarding parties and used the captured ship along with mine to destroy the 2 remaining enemy ships. Tara gave one of her tiny smiles. And that is why they set you back a week. The logical thing to do is retreat to Naruto. As usual, you did something impossible, so they probably figure you are some kind of a tactical genius. Naruto always wins at strategy games, Mama, said Talek. Are you surprised? The only way he plays is with unorthodox and unexpected strategies. I should have known, said Plyra as she shook her head. My mate has always been too smart for his own good. Naruto had the decency to blush. Tara was simply amused. Stardate 2271.267, Shirkar City, Starfleet Recruiter's Office. Lieutenant Cruz was sitting in front of Naruto and said, "The normal time for someone to go through Starfleet Academy is 4 years, but because of your excellent performance not only on our entrance exams but your 4 years at the Vulcan Science Academy, we are waiving your first 2 years of basic courses. Naturally, basic courses exclusively geared towards Starfleet will be required, but the Commandant of Starfleet Academy is confident that you will be able to handle this. Your field of study is to be fast-tracked to command with your own choice of minor, which I presume will be sciences." "Why is science not my major?" asked Naruto. "Your aptitude tests show that command is your strongest ability. After that comes sciences and engineering," said Cruz. "I'm sure you understand that Starfleet needs leaders, and someone such as yourself may be in training today but will be a leader tomorrow. Starfleet is investing a great deal in you to help you live up to your full potential. Of course, your future success is entirely up to you." Naruto shook his head and remembered his mother's words. "Starfleet will put you where they want you, Naruto. It's a military organization. Don't expect everything to go your way." Naruto was understandably down due to his current circumstances. As usual, Mother's assessment was correct. "In 6 weeks, I will be heading to San Francisco on Earth to attend Starfleet Academy. I won't see Clyra for at least 2 months while she is in Starfleet's boot camp, and after that there will be 2 long years that we won't be seeing each other regularly because she will be on duty while I am in training. I expected some of this, but facing the reality of it is difficult." 5 weeks later, Clyra caught a passenger ship to Earth. A week later, Naruto followed suit and boarded the starliner Gossamer Dream to his own destination on planet Earth. Stardate 2271.309 Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, planet Earth. Personal log: my trip aboard the Gossamer Dream was pleasant enough. Most of the passengers aboard were fellow Starfleet Academy entrants from various places around the Federation. A few were Vulcan, but I mainly saw humans and Andorians. There were also Deltans, Caitians, and Trills among others. Interactions with them have been very taxing on my olfactory senses. Were it not for my previous experience with my friends Allison Fairbanks and Jeff Baker from the Vulcan Science Academy, the smell of humans would be overwhelming. I find this surprising because my visit to the Enterprise was not as taxing. I hypothesized that the air cleansers on the Enterprise kept the air much cleaner due to it being a military vessel, unlike the Gossamer Dream. The shuttle trip down to Starfleet Academy was rather fascinating, as Earth's climate is incredibly different from that of Vulcan. I am trying to keep a positive outlook about things and have been corresponding with Clyra when she is available. Unfortunately, due to the nature of her training, our contact is sporadic at best. Once we both are settled into our routine training schedules, things will improve, no doubt." Naruto felt the heavy shuttle come to a halt with a small bump, along with the slight feeling of deceleration. When the side hatch opened, Naruto grabbed his single piece of luggage with his personal effects and stepped out into the California sunlight in 26 degrees Celsius weather. Naruto's eyes widened slightly when he saw the temperature. He muttered quietly to himself, 26°C? I'm used to cool days being 43°C. The forge gets up around 65 Celsius. I suppose I'll just have to adjust to this climate. Starfleet Academy was bustling with activity as cadets flowed in for the beginning of the semester. Naruto soon found himself herded into a large auditorium with everyone else. It was extremely loud by Vulcan standards. An officer stood up at the podium towards the center and said, "Attention, cadets. Before you are processed and given your new uniforms, our esteemed Academy Commandant Admiral Pai would like to impart a few words to you." An elderly man took the center stage and said in a voice rich with authority, "To the newest Starfleet Academy cadets, I bid you welcome. In the next 4 years, the hardest challenges and greatest adventures you have ever known. You have earned the right to proudly wear your Starfleet cadets uniforms through feats in academics, physical prowess, and above all else, character. You are the best your worlds have to offer, and only the best can represent the United Federation of Planets in Starfleet. Starfleet and our ideals are needed by the Federation now more than ever before as we face outside pressures and push our knowledge to new boundaries through space exploration. We need those willing to answer the call of duty and to serve the Federation and what it represents. Each of you here has heard that call to duty and answered it. I congratulate you, cadets, your adventure is just beginning. There was a loud but polite applause as Admiral Pi left the podium and the names of the cadets started being called to get into line to be processed. Dorm F, Room 125F. The dorm rooms were laid out much like what you would find on a starship for junior officers. All in all, Naruto's room was rather drab and sterile looking with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a shared bathroom. Naruto noted a small shelf for books above each bed and 2 closets for one's wardrobe. It was arranged in a very ergonomic fashion which struck Naruto as logical even if it didn't suit his personal tastes. Naruto was sitting on the bed in his new quarters waiting for his assigned roommate to arrive. All the blonde hybrid was told was his new roommate was named Mrella and that she was female. Naruto was a bit puzzled by the name. Mrella doesn't seem to correlate with any naming conventions I can think of on planets I am familiar with. I suppose the logical thing to do is change into my cadet's uniform and wait. Naruto slipped on his form-fitting uniform and noted that it left little to the imagination. Black pants and boots with a snug shirt denoting his field of study, golden for command. Naruto heard the door slide open and saw a jet-black Kaitian female walk in. She took a good long look at Naruto and said in a purring, cat-like voice, "Asterisk, you don't smell like a human, I like those ears, I'm Rella of Kate." "Are you Naruto?" Kaitians are a felinoid race that hail from the planet Kate, which was a Xinti colony in the ancient past. "She's quite stunning." He gave the Vulcan salute and said, "Yes, I am Naruto of Vulcan." "It is a pleasure to meet you." Her amber eyes widened slightly. "You have an unusual appearance for a Vulcan. You are blonde and have whisker marks. Most Vulcans aren't nearly as handsome as you," she purred. Naruto raised an eyebrow and noted her snug kimono-like clothing and dainty digitigrade feet. Her black tail swayed softly with interest as she looked Naruto over. "You are in the fast-track program as I am then? There are only about 20 of us." "There are that few," wondered Naruto. "Yes, I was waived half of my credit hours so I have 80 credit hours to take in the next 2 years. I'm studying command and sciences." Mrella purred. She held up a gold shirt from her bag and said, "I'm majoring in command and communications. We Kaitians have good ears, so I was put in communications whether I wanted it or not. Pardon me while I change into uniform." Naruto was going to leave to give her some privacy when Mrella disrobed right there and gave Naruto an eyeful. Her glossy black fur was neatly groomed over every curve of her voluptuous body. Naruto blushed and turned away for the sake of decency. She was grumbling as she put on her uniform behind Naruto. "These human-style clothes simply aren't designed for Kaitians. My tail feels restricted, and these boots are atrocious. I'd rather go barefoot." Naruto turned around and saw the young Kaitian woman was sitting on her bed really fighting with her boots. "Would you like some assistance?" asked Naruto. She said. "That would be a big help." Naruto unzipped the side of each boot and helped Mrella maneuver them on. "So that's what those extra zippers are for," she said. "Thank you for your help, Naruto. I am not fully used to these zippers yet." She added with a purr, "I believe we are going to be good friends." "I wonder what that entails," thought Naruto. "I need to study Kaitian culture and fast." Soon the odd pair was exploring Dorm F. There were gymnasiums, movie theaters, and a large communal dining hall. "Classes start in 3 days," said Naruto. "It would be to our advantage to locate the classrooms we are to attend." Mrella purred happily in approval and said, "Let's explore the campus then. I want to see the Sciences building first." Sciences Hall. "You already have 2 doctoral degrees?" asked Mrella surprised. I have my doctorate in communications and master's in languages, and that put me in the fast-track program. I'm surprised they didn't just send you into the fleet." Naruto looked thoughtful and said, "Those of us in the fast-track program need to be indoctrinated with Starfleet policies and procedures, so I doubt they would do such a thing." "Indoctrination sounds a lot like brainwashing," the Kaitian female said with a chuckle. Naruto was about to reply when a large human male said, "Well, hello pussycat," to Mrella. "You must be new here." I'm Cadet Joseph Kirov. How would you like a tour with yours truly? The blonde raised an eyebrow. Are you familiar with the facilities here, upperclassmen? Kirov turned to Naruto and said, "Oh, sorry, pal, I didn't notice you there. I was talking to a pussycat here." Rella resisted the urge to roll her amber eyes and gripped Naruto's arm. "I believe that my companion and I will be fine exploring on our own. Thank you for your kind offer to upperclassman Kirov." Pulling Naruto to the left, she said, let's go to the microbiology lab right here." Kirov huffed as the Kaitian girl completely blew him off. He figured he could talk to her later. That black-haired cutie is hot. Shame I don't know biology. She just needs to see me fight. I'm a security specialist after all. The big man strutted off, thinking of ways he could impress his latest female interest. Inside the lab, Rella was talking to Naruto. "I truly like humans, but I truly dislike when they are patronizing towards me. I am not a pet cat, I am a Kaitian," she huffed. "I never thought of that sort of problem," thought Naruto. "I suppose it would be the human equivalent of being called a monkey." Dorm F, Gymnasium number 3. Back at Dorm F, there was a large sparring ring where the cadets proved their mettle in the martial arts. It was here that a beautiful young blonde woman with an uneven bob haircut and ice blue eyes was making a name for herself. Samly Schrödinger was teaching an upperclassman what an elbow to the jaw could really do as he staggered backwards in a daze and fell unconscious after a follow-up straight punch to the face. As her opponent fell flat on the mat, Samly adjusted her white karate gi that fit her impressive bust. Samly was an 8th-degree black belt and essentially had been getting her workout in by kicking ass and taking names all afternoon. One of the instructors that she pummeled earlier said, "That will be enough, Cadet Schrödinger. Let someone else in the ring have a turn." Samly bowed and said, "Yes, sir." She tightened her black belt and left the ring to sit and watch with the other cadets practicing there. Almost all of them were her upperclassmen, but they gave the young woman a wide berth. "That is one scary chick," said another cadet quietly. "Who cares?" whispered another. "She's drop-dead gorgeous. Just look at the rack on that girl. My phasers are locked." Samly sat there thinking. She was ignoring the words from the peanut gallery. This group isn't much of a challenge at all, and most of them are security types. I've been fast-tracked for command. I wonder when I'll meet the others that skipped 2 years. Going to the University of Cambridge and getting my degree in cosmology and astronomy puts me way ahead of most of the graduates here, let alone the other cadets. Hopefully there will be some interesting people among the other fast-track students. Starfleet Academy, Stardate 2271.317. Personal log: after the first week, my basic classes have presented no real challenges. What has been challenging has been cohabitating with Mrella. I realize I am very used to privacy and need to adjust my outlook. To this end, I've had a shadow clone heavily studying Kaitian culture and habits and have found that they are a warm and cooperative race that value loyalty and friendship above all else. They are very peace-loving and abhor violence. They are also very neat and tidy. Mrella is very meticulous about cleanliness, which I approve of, and grooms herself often to prevent shedding of her fur. On the negative side, she is rather shameless and sleeps in the nude. She knows I am bonded, yet I have been very embarrassed a number of times by her suddenly appearing out of the shower wearing nothing but a smile. Mrella is also flirtatious and likes to sit very close to me. She is very expressive and affectionate. While these seem to be common traits as far as she is concerned, I have more than once nearly leaped to the ceiling to stick there with Chakra. I wish Lyra was here, but at the same time I believe she would find Mrella's behavior quite unacceptable. Starfleet Education Hall, Class, Starfleet Sciences 1 and 2. "Good morning, class," said Lieutenant Charles Cross. "Good morning, sir," chanted the entire class in answer to the lieutenant. Lieutenant Cross was a career Starfleet officer that found his calling in teaching others. Mixed in his class were the fast-track students that he had to drill to a higher standard, as they were considered future leaders whether they wanted it or not. And drill them he did. Cross was notorious for giving his lectures and shooting out rapid-fire questions in the process. regulations, etiquette, leadership skills, everything required for a future career as a Starfleet officer. As he lectured about Starfleet ethics, Cross suddenly snapped his fingers and pointed at Sammy. "This is the basics of the basics, people. Cadet Schrödinger, what is Starfleet General Order 1? Sammy rattled out, "The Prime Directive, also known as Starfleet General Order 1 or the Non-Interference Directive, is the embodiment of one of Starfleet's most important ethical principles, non-interference with other cultures and civilizations." "Correct, Cadet Schrödinger," said Cross. He snapped his fingers again and pointed at Naruto. "Cadet Naruto, give me a full description of the Prime Directive." The blonde answered, "The Prime Directive is as follows. As the right of each sentient species to live in accordance with its normal cultural evolution is considered sacred, no Starfleet personnel may interfere with the healthy development of alien life and culture. Such interference includes the introduction of superior knowledge, strength, or technology to a world whose society is incapable of handling such advantages wisely. Starfleet personnel may not violate this Prime Directive, even to save their lives and/or their ship, unless they are acting to right an earlier violation or an accidental contamination of said culture. This directive takes precedence over any and all other considerations and carries with it the highest moral obligation." And so it went. After the class was dismissed, the Fast Rack students went towards their next class they all had together, Planetary Survival I. As they walked, they were discussing Lieutenant Cross. Mrella said, "Has anyone else noticed that Mr. Cross singles out the fast track students? His constant finger snapping is hard on my ears as well." "He's probably under orders too," said Sammy. "Cross breaking a finger or two so he couldn't snap would be tragic though," she added with a cold smile. Naruto's mind immediately started whirring and clicking with plans to lube Lieutenant Cross's fingers so his snaps would whisper quiet if at all. "It's just a matter of finding the correct lubricant," thought Naruto deviously. Communications Hall, class, public speaking and leadership too. "I did this at Cambridge," groaned Sammy under her breath as their teacher talked about the finer points of writing a speech. Naruto nodded. "As did I at the Vulcan Science Academy." "We all did," growled another human fast-track student. Naruto was a bit bemused by his fellow fast-track students. There was no doubt in his mind that they were all very smart and a bit eccentric. His friend Allison Fairbanks would have fit in perfectly. But more to the point, many of them bordered on arrogance. They knew they were special and acted accordingly. Naruto felt this was undesirable and wondered how long it would be before the more pretentious members of their little group got thoroughly humbled. It might be better to break up this group rather than let them develop a superiority complex. One that stood out as being downright pompous to anyone aside from his fellow fast-track students was an Andorian male named Shar. He had a full doctorate in philosophy from the top university of Andor. Naruto really wondered why a philosopher would qualify as a Starfleet officer, but figured Starfleet must have had a reason. Shar turned to Naruto and said, "You are a man of logic, Naruto. Can you think of any logical reason why we are suffering through this pedestrian and elementary course? It's so mundane." Naruto really wanted to sigh but said patiently, "Starfleet has to have each of us on the same page. Logically, I would be able to write a persuasive speech for Vulcans that would not be as persuasive to an Andorian audience. Conversely, you would be successful with Andorians but perhaps not as much as Vulcans. I believe they are attempting to round out our various skills to speak to all cultures." The young Andorian man pondered for a moment and said, "Well, I'm sure you feel it's unnecessary as we all do, but that would explain Starfleet's train of thought." "Thank you, my friend." Naruto just nodded and got back to listening to the lecture. "Yes, it is boring, but it is a matter of necessity. The majority of Starfleet is made up of humans after all." Dorm F, room 125F. Naruto was back in his quarters in the sitting area talking to Tlyra over his tablet. Tlyra was obviously very pleased to see him, as all they had been corresponding with was text for the last 3 weeks. The brunette beauty was a bit dirty but had a healthy glow about her, and Naruto could tell she was doing well. "We're in Tunisia studying desert survival, Naruto. Compared to the forge back home, this is easy. My classmates are having a rough time of it though. Humans sweat and lose water a lot." She wrinkled her nose in reference to the smell. Naruto's blue eyes held amusement and he said, "As long as you are doing well. Our planetary survival course is all theory right now. We have yet to go into the field." "That sounds terribly difficult," replied Clara dryly. "How you must be suffering in an air-conditioned room." Naruto gave a tiny smile. "How did you get so dirty, Clara?" She looked amused. "One of our transports suffered a repulsor failure. I had to jury-rig it so we could limp back to base. Our warrant officer didn't know how to fix it, so I offered him some assistance." "That's my mate," said Naruto in approval. "I have to go to Naruto," said the brunette. "Stay safe." "You stay safe as well, Clara." "I hope we speak again soon," said Naruto. With that, Clara's image faded and the transmission ended. Tunisia, Desert Training Station 16. Clara held her tablet close to her chest. "How I miss you, Naruto. Our Vulcan babe looks lonely." "Maybe she needs some tender loving care from yours truly," said crewman recruit Thomas Sullivan. "I don't know, Tommy, I think she was just talking to her boyfriend or something," said another. "We'll see if she feels that way in the morning," said Sullivan with a greasy smile. Chapter 12: Survival in the Desert. Naruto, Infinity Divide. Survival in the Desert. Blanket disclaimer: I do not own Naruto or Star Trek. Author's note: this chapter we get to see some simulated ship-to-ship combat. Enjoy. Port equals left. Starboard equals right. Last time. You stay safe as well, Clara. I hope we speak again soon, said Naruto. With that, Clara's image faded and the transmission ended. Tunisia, Desert Training Station 16. Clara held her tablet close to her chest. How I miss you, Naruto. Our Vulcan babe looks lonely. Maybe she needs some tender loving care from yours truly, said crewman recruit Thomas Sullivan. I don't know, Tommy, I think she was just talking to her boyfriend or something, said another. We'll see if she feels that way in the morning, said Sullivan with a greasy smile. Chapter 12. Stardate 2271.317, Tunisia, Planet Earth. Training Station 16 was a typical barracks for new recruits. Given it was a survival course, cheap and prefabricated tents were all the trainees had for shelter. Most of them were miserable in the sweltering heat of day and the freezing temperatures at night. It was lights out at 2000 hours and most of them were struggling to sleep. Not so for Clara. With her Vulcan physiology, she was quite comfortable and was sleeping like a baby. She was dreaming about the past. Dream. Vulcan Science Academy. Clara was sitting in the crowd watching the hand-to-hand combat matches that were held every year. Naruto was one of the finalists in the freestyle category. He had won the Choreolifla category 2 days ago, and it had been a severe upset because the scholars at the Vulcan Science Academy traditionally weren't that good at the martial arts. Clara was very excited seeing her mate in action. As Sovar proudly stated, Naruto was extremely good at Choreolifla, but combining the martial arts is where he truly shines. As it was, the 15-year-old Naruto was taking on a 20-year-old Vulcan from the Vulcan School of Defensive Arts that Sovar taught at. Clara didn't catch Naruto's opponent's name, but she did hear that he used the martial art of Su's Mana Asterisk, which was based on the concept of foresight and reaction. The art had a lot of side-to-side motion, and the man Naruto was facing had basically leveled every opponent he'd faced without taking a hit in return. Naruto fell into an offensive Shan stance, which would be easy to predict because Shan was somewhat based on dancing and rhythm. Naruto's friends were sitting with Clara and Senva said, that's highly illogical for Naruto to use Shan. It is very predictable, and his opponent is counting on predictability. Naruto probably is pulling a fast one knowing him, said Allison confidently. You just watch. The match began and Naruto immediately went for the classic Shen opening foot sweep that his opponent countered with laughable ease and caused Naruto to go spinning. The crowd seemed disappointed at such an obvious opening when Naruto landed in a handstand with his elbows bent. The blonde hybrid channeled chakra into his arms and launched himself above and behind his opponent into a right side-up position in the air. Clara recognized the stance Naruto was in. He called it the toad style, which was from his ancestral memories. The blonde landed a devastating kick to the unprotected back of his opponent's head and then landed another kick to the 20-year-old's spine, which sent him crashing and tumbling across the ring. Naruto landed with the grace of a big cat and waited for his opponent to make a move. The Suzumana practitioner stumbled back to his feet in a daze, but before he could get back in his stance, Naruto used another of his ancestral moves called the leaf whirlwind that the blonde used to slide under his opponent and kicked him skywards. As the man fell back under the effect of gravity, he saw Naruto's eyes crackle with chakra below him as the blonde assumed the Kurila stance for complete offense to assure maximum damage. "This is going to hurt," were his last thoughts before Naruto hit him like a freight train. Clara remembered how Naruto kissed her passionately after he won. Naruto won an achievement in the martial arts medallion to wear with his matching academy medallion. It had been a great day, but Clara thought the best part was the kiss they shared. Dream end. Clara awoke instantly to the feeling of a weight pinning her and a hand over her mouth. In the low light, she saw Recruit Sullivan on top of her. He had one arm pinning her wrists above her head and her brown eyes were full of shock. Sullivan said, "Don't you worry, baby, I know you were lonely. Big Daddy is going to take care of you all night long." Sullivan ground into her and nuzzled her breasts. She violently shook her head no with fear in her eyes. He pressed his index finger to her lips and said, "You'd like that, wouldn't you, baby?" Then her eyes blazed with anger. A second later, Sullivan was in a world of hurt. Clara kneed him in the groin hard enough to send him over her and rip through the tent wall into the sand outside. She also bit off his index finger at the second knuckle. Between Sullivan screaming in pain outside, part of the tent collapsing, and an angry Clara roaring, "How dare you!" the camp was in utter pandemonium. Sullivan was on the ground in the sand staring dumbly at the stump where his right index finger used to be when Clara sprang on him in a Shan attack fueled by pure rage. When they finally managed to pull Clara off her would-be rapist, he looked like a jigsaw puzzle missing a few pieces. The 4 warrant officers that managed to pull Clara off Sullivan called for medics and took Clara back to the command tent. The young Vulcan woman had calmed herself somewhat by then, and other than being completely disheveled and having Sullivan's blood all over her, she was physically under control. Seconds later, a stern-looking woman in her mid-40s was looming over Clara. Chief Warrant Officer Ellie Nelson roared at Clara, "Explain yourself to me, recruit. Why did you attack Sullivan? Give me one good reason to not dismiss you here and now." Clara said plainly, "It was self-defense. He tried to force himself upon me when I was sleeping." Nelson's anger vanished and she whispered, "What?" "He pinned me with his body and covered my mouth so I couldn't call for help," said Clara in an emotionless tone. "He made several sexual innuendos as he touched me inappropriately. I reacted the only logical way I could, with extreme violence." Another warrant officer poked his head in the tent and said to Nelson, "We found Sullivan's finger, Chief." "It was in the tent where she spit it out." Nelson's eyes flashed angrily. "I don't give a damn. Give it to the medics and call a counselor to recruit Clara. We're locking up Sullivan for sexual assault." The warrant officer jumped back and said, "Yes, ma'am." Starfleet Academy, Dorm F, Room 125F. Mrella was lying on her stomach on her bed reading over her homework as she listened to her Kaitian a cappella music, which was composed of the soft purrs of her native tongue. She was in her short off-duty kimono with her slender tail swaying back and forth to the beat when Naruto raced in with a wild look in his blue eyes. He looked frantic. The young Kaitian woman asked, "Are you all right, Naruto? You look very out of sorts." Naruto grabbed his tablet and said, "I felt great fear and anger telepathically from my mate. I must contact Clara immediately." He grabbed his tablet and tried to signal her but got no response. After trying for about 20 minutes, the blonde sat down and said to Mrella, "I'm going to try to contact her psychically. Neither one of us is as accomplished in psionics as we'd like, but I must reach out to her." He immediately sat down in a meditative stance. Training Station 16, Tunisia, Command Tent. Chief Warrant Officer Nelson handed Clara a flask and said, "Drink, girl, you are still shaking all over and I know it's not from the cold." Seeing Clara sniff the flask delicately, Ellie said, "It's Saurian brandy." Clara took a drink and coughed before Nelson said, "Just sip it and relax. You've had a long night." Hearing her name called, Ellie said, "Sit tight. I'll be back in a few minutes." Clara felt the alcohol soothe her nerves a bit, but then she felt her mate's presence, though their psychic bond. Naruto was worried for her, and that brought a tiny smile to her face. They weren't used to long-distance communication like this, but both Naruto and Clara's emotions served to soothe and calm each other for several minutes before Chief Nelson returned. The chief saw her charge's face looked much calmer. "Did that brandy help? You looked like you were talking to somebody." Lyra nodded and said, "My mate Naruto contacted me psychically. He was concerned for me. I feel much better now." "Thank you for the drink, ma'am." Nelson looked intrigued. "So where is this man of yours?" "Ah, he is in San Francisco here on Earth," said Clara. "He is a cadet officer at the Starfleet Academy. He felt my distress through our bond and contacted me that way. I will have to call him on my tablet as soon as I am able." Chief Nelson said, "Once we've recorded all your statements, I'm turning you over to a counselor. They'll probably let you call your man." Starfleet Academy, Dorm F, Room 125F. Naruto relaxed and opened his eyes. He saw Umbrella looking at him curiously. "Are you all right now, Naruto? Is your mate all right?" "She is safe," said Naruto with a long exhale. "I will await her call. I was very concerned." Umbrella smiled and said, "Yes, I could feel the worry radiating off of you. It seems that Vulcan possess emotions after all." Naruto sighed and said, "All Vulcans possess strong emotions whether they realize it or not. It nearly destroyed us in ancient times. That is why we adopted the philosophy of logic, so that those same violent passions would not rule us." The Kaitian girl propped her chin in her hand and said, "Tell me about Vulcan. All I've ever heard is that it's a hot desert world." Naruto thought for a moment and said, "Let me tell you about the Forge. It is a most wondrous place for Vulcans who reach out to it." Starfleet Academy, Dorm F, Room 132F. Cadet Samui Schrödinger set down her tablet. Her homework was done, and her Trill roommate Rafi was out having fun as usual. "I'll never understand that girl. Are all Trills so flighty? This is the military." The beautiful blonde's tablet chimed and Samui quickly answered it with a minimalist smile. "Mom? I wasn't expecting a call, but I'm glad to hear from you. Yes, things are cool here with me." Flashback. Samui's adoptive parents were both astronomers that lived in England. The Schrödingers were charged with the rather difficult duty of raising an Augment daughter who was genetically superior and twice as smart as all the other children around her. The girl was very self-sufficient, having lived on Trialis 4 for a year all by herself. The 11-year-old was rather difficult to raise at first, since 2 of her 3 favorite words were genetics and superior. The other one was cool. They imparted their own love of astronomy and cosmology on young Samui, and soon their Augment daughter was eagerly learning all she could about the cosmos. Samui also studied the horrors of the eugenics wars and concluded the Augments had it all wrong. While the scientists of the Earth's project to create augmented humans were successful in breeding a superior race, it led to the creation of genetically engineered madmen that sought to dominate their non-modified brethren. According to the journal of one of the scientists that was responsible for the creation of the Augments, superior ability breeds superior ambition. This log was written shortly before he was killed by his own creations. Samui had grown to love her parents, and the idea of turning on them because they weren't genetically modified abhorred the blonde girl. Samui held that the place she should go was space to help all of humanity to grow and thrive, and her parents wholeheartedly supported this. The blonde concluded that she was a human first and an augmented second. Samui admitted that she tended to be a bit too arrogant and judgmental of others, but at the same time she was working on it. Flashback end. Samui was explaining the fast-track students to her mother. "They are all rather eccentric in some way or other, but I'm cool with that. I think once we start planetary survival, it's going to separate the kids from the grown-ups awfully fast. Yes, Mom, I know I'm 5 times stronger than an average human, but trust me, I haven't been showing off as much like I used to. No, most of the others have doctorates too." I'm very impressed, although we have an Andorian that has a doctorate in philosophy. I have no idea why he wants to be an officer in the military. Maybe his grandpapa is an admiral or something. Alright, I love you, Mom. Tell Papa I love him too. Bye. Samui had turned out to be a good human after all. Stardate 2271.318, Casablanca, Morocco. Crewman recruit Thomas Sullivan found himself in a hospital under the watch of 4 Federation security guards of a less than friendly disposition. He remembered he was going to get lucky with the beautiful Vulcan girl and was holding her down so she couldn't struggle. Then he remembered the gentle girl turned into a violent hellcat and ripped him to shreds. What the hell went wrong? He wondered aloud. I had her and dash. You'd best shut your mouth, recruit, growled one of the female guards. You're already up on charges and your chatter is incriminating. Sullivan's eyes widened. I'm up on charges? Charges for what? I didn't do anything. A male guard said, shut up and wait for the officers to arrive. You are in deep shit. Sullivan shrank down in his hospital bed. He'd always considered himself a ladies' man but was starting to realize that he may have gone a little too far this time. Training Station 16, Tunisia, Command Tent. Clyra had a good shower to get the blood off her and was in fresh desert combat fatigues. The counselor had arrived a few minutes before and now Counselor Janet Hope was talking with Clyra about her experience. It was obviously very frightening for you. It would be for any female regardless of race, said Hope. Had you interacted with Sullivan before? Has he ever talked to you? Clyra shook her head and said, he and I exchanged greetings once and I handed him a jerry can with water in it when we were setting up the camp. We had no other interactions before he assaulted me. Hope nodded and took some notes down. Did he ever indicate he was attracted to you in a nonverbal way? The Vulcan girl shrugged. If he did, I never noticed. I never associated with him or his friends. Do you think his friends were involved? Asked the counselor. It's not logical to speculate, stated Clyra. It would be best to ask them. Janet had a smile on her face. A very Vulcan way to handle the situation. Why don't you indulge me with a little speculation? Crewman recruit Clyra? Clyra's eyes flickered with irritation. I have no evidence that any of his friends were involved. I would tend to think Sullivan acted alone. 4 of Thomas Sullivan's buddies were being questioned one after the other in a separate tent. Chris Copper looked exhausted as he was questioned. Tommy always was a womanizer, but I can't believe he went that far. I mean, that Vulcan woman is incredibly sexy, but Jesus, I guess Tommy lost all his sense in the heat of the moment. The investigation officer nodded and asked, do you know of anyone who might have aided Sullivan? Recruit Copper shook his head. No one helped him. We all thought it was a bad idea and Grossman even said so. Tommy didn't listen. Recruit Grossman said as much, said the officer as he took a notation. We're done here, Recruit Copper. Report back to your commanding officer. Back in the command tent, Clyra had her tablet out and was talking to Naruto. It was the middle of the night in San Francisco, but Naruto was wide awake. Clyra said, I'm really alright, Naruto. The situation is under control and my attacker is elsewhere under guard pending charges. She saw Naruto's eyes blazing with chakra. It reminded her of the time he obliterated a boulder with an Udama Rasengan. She could only imagine what it would do to a human like Sullivan. He asked her, do you want me to come there? There would be no logic in Naruto, said Clyra. Though it would be comforting to have you here, we both have our assigned duties. Naruto's body relaxed a bit. You are correct, of course. Still, I would like to be close to you during this time. I love you, Naruto, said Clyra. Know that I am fine and get some sleep. Naruto's eyes stopped crackling with chakra. And I love you, Clyra. Good night, my mate. Clyra deactivated her tablet and looked over her shoulder. Do you always eavesdrop on the private conversations of Counselor Hope? Hope looked embarrassed. Forgive me, recruit, I came in and you were talking. I've never heard a Vulcan say, I love you before. The Vulcan girl said, "My mate and I are very open to one another. I suppose it is unusual, but it works for us. Besides, I had to put his mind at ease. He would hunt Sullivan to the ends of the galaxy given the chance." "Your mate sounds like an unusual Vulcan," said the counselor humorously. Clyra nodded with a tiny smile and said, "My mate is quite exceptional." Stardate 2271.318, Starfleet Academy. Personal log: my mate Clyra has gone through a trial she should never have had to go through. I am looking into the regulations regarding this situation. I spoke with Lieutenant Cross about the matter because he knows Starfleet regulations better than anyone else teaching me. He assured me that the case would be dealt with swiftly and that Clyra's attacker would be dismissed from service at least and incarcerated at the most. I was put at ease by his reassurance on the matter. Today the fast-track students are learning Starship navigation, helm and other controls in the full simulator for the first time. Naruto was at the helm station of a simulated Burke-class frigate for the first time. He was given 15 minutes of free maneuvering to get used to the way the simulated ship handled. At the navigator's station was the female Trill Rafi, and in the command chair was Samly Schrödinger. Mrella was at the sciences station and the Andorian Shar was at the communications station. He was disgruntled that he wasn't in the command position. This isn't that different from handling my speeder bike, thought Naruto. It takes care, but the ship responds smoothly with about a 5-second lag. It is a simple matter of anticipating the flight path. Their instructor, Commander Triella Jackson from the Mars colonies, soon called them to attention. "All right, cadets, you've had your 15 minutes of playtime. Let's reset the simulator to 0. For the next hour you are taking NCC 300 USS Burke on a mission near, well, you'll figure it out." The screen reset and showed them in space clipping along at warp factor 4. Samly immediately said, "What is our location, Rafi?" "We're in the Varex system in the Borderlands area near the Klingon Empire," answered the Trill. Varex 3 is a former Orion Syndicate world. According to our information, it is still pretty lawless. "Give me wide sensor scan at maximum range, Mrella," said Samly. "I want to know if any other vessels are in the system, hostile or otherwise." Mrella looked at her sensor screen at the sciences station. I don't see anything at this point, Samly. I'm going to look for ion trails in case someone is hiding in the system." "I'm picking up a distress call, Samly," said Shar. "A freighter named the Pollux in distress off Varex 7. It's on the far side of the gas giant planet being attacked by pirates." Samly said, "Red alert. We are going to rescue the freighter. Put us on course for Varex 7 Naruto, warp factor 6. Try to get a lock on the freighter, Mrella. Shar, contact the Pollux and inform them we're on our way." Mrella said, "The freighter is throwing of a ton of jamming ECM asterisk. It looks like the pirates' shots are going wide. They are moving at warp 3 towards us." Rafi focused on the screen and her eyes narrowed. "The pirates are coming into our visual range. I've identified the Orion ship as the Light Raider Ersatz." "On screen, magnify," said Samly. A small, sleek Orion ship was shooting wildly as it pursued the larger freighter. "The Ersatz is no bigger than us. We can take her on. Hail the Orions and tell them to cease and desist, Shar." No reply from the Ersatz, said Shar. "The Pollux says her rear shields just collapsed." Naruto said, "The Pollux is throwing off way too much ECM for a freighter. Something is amiss, Samly. A standard freighter shouldn't have those kinds of electronics." Samly's brain started whirring at warp speed. "Mrella, scan the Pollux closely. Naruto, angle us towards the Light Raider." Mrella's amber eyes widened. "The freighter doesn't match the warp signature of the Pollux. I'm showing no damage to the freighter at all. It's a trap." "That freighter is Orion as well," said Rafi. "Naruto, hard starboard," ordered Samly. "Reinforce our facing shields." The Burke veered to starboard and narrowly missed the arc of phasers that lit up from the false Pollux and the Ersatz. The Burke shuddered as the phasers grazed the ship's bow and port forward shields. "Damage report," said Samly. Shields 1 and 6 are holding at 75% and 71%, said Mrella. We can still fight. Naruto, give us some distance, we can't take both ships at once, said Samui. Char, signal Starfleet command and inform them of the enemy vessels in the area. After that we need to neutralize this threat. Give me options, people. We could withdraw. Winning this battle isn't crucial, said Char. That earned him a sharp glare from Samui. They are a threat to Federation shipping in the area, said Rafi. We can't ignore that. We are in a position to hit and fade as long as the Light Raider stays with that freighter, said Naruto. If they want us, the ersatz is the only one that can keep up with us. The fake Pollux we can take apart after we've dealt with the ersatz. Samui nodded. Then we have to bait them. Put us on a parallel course, Naruto. The ersatz is transmitting encrypted codes to the freighter, Samui, said Char. Try to decrypt them, Char, said Samui. The false Pollux is withdrawing, Samui, said Mrella. The ersatz is charging us at warp factor 6. They are really pushing it then, said Naruto. Samui commanded, bring us about to face Naruto. Rafi, prepare a full salvo and fire on my mark. Battery reinforcement to front shields. The USS Burke pivoted neatly around in a tight turn to face the Light Raider ersatz. 30,000 kilometers, 20,000 kilometers, 10,000 km. Samui's ice blue eyes seemed to flash. Fire. 3 phasers and 2 photon torpedoes lanced into the speeding Orion ship a second before the ersatz could fire their own weapons. The results were spectacular as the demolished Orion ship careened out of control. The ersatz was only able to answer with 1 phaser, which did minor shield damage to the Burke. Excellent shooting, Rafi, complimented Samui as she watched the left engine separate from the Orion ship. Mrella, get me a scan of the Light Raider. Char, hail the ersatz and inform them dash. Mrella said, the ersatz just went critical. They've self-destructed. The crew watched as the wrecked pirate ship blew up on screen. The Burke shook a bit at the shockwave from the explosion but suffered no further damage. The light suddenly switched back to normal from the red alert and the view screen said in all capital letters, simulation ended. The crew of the Burke all exhaled. That was exhausting, said Char. I'm more concerned with our grades, said Rafi. Mrella nodded. It seemed very realistic and frightening. They soon filed into their classroom where the 5 of them were to receive their grades. Commander Jackson was there waiting and said, you kids didn't do too badly for your first time out. There is an 85% fail rate for that scenario, and given the fact you deliberately weren't given clear objectives, it was even more likely that you would fail. Very nicely done. You will get your performance evaluations next time. Class is dismissed. Jackson was filing her report for her superiors and made a notation for later. Note on Fast Track Group A, they acclimated quickly, and though they are very rough around the edges, they show great promise. As a group, they have superb instincts. Need to toughen up the Andorian. Mess hall. Almost all Vulcans are vegetarians, explained Naruto as he picked at /ate his lunch. I'm becoming acclimated to Terran foods. The food here they pass off as Vulcan cuisine here is quite unpalatable. Char said, you should complain to the faculty. Surely we fast-track students deserve better fare. Naruto shook his head, there are enough issues without making waves, as my human friends always said back at Vulcan Science Academy. There is a certain animosity towards our group. Getting special treatment and drawing unnecessary attention to ourselves would not be in our best interests. Cooperation with others is paramount in our situation, said Mrella. Rafi grinned. Your people get along with everybody, Mrella. The Trill dug into her lunch. I find human foods to be pretty good, but I'm not a vegetarian like you and Naruto. Vegetarianism always struck me as odd for a felinoid race personally, said Char bluntly. Aren't Xintis and Lyrans almost exclusively carnivorous? Mrella smiled and said in her soft purring voice, they are also warlike and violent, unlike we Caitians. My people sometimes eat fish, but that is all the meat we eat. Even then it is rare we consume meat of any type. Samly was eating liver and onions and beginning to wonder if she should be eating it in front of her new vegetarian comrades. Naruto said, "Navy food is something to adjust to just like everything else. You seem to be adjusting well to it, Char." "That's because he's eating Andorian fast food from Shrinkyar's restaurant on campus," said Rafi. Then she added with a grin, "I somehow never would have guessed a cultured philosopher such as yourself would lower himself to fast food, Char." The Andorian huffed, "At least it's genuine cuisine from my home world. Besides, tuber root pops are a delight to the palate. So are their red bat sandwiches." "Red bat?" asked Naruto. "Yes, the red bat is a small mammal that is native to Anders Moon," said the philosopher. "It's used to make the Imperare red bat dish and red bat sandwiches at Shrinkyar's." As the small group of fast-track cadets discussed food, another group sat down at table over. They were fourth-year upperclassmen and were discussing a defeat they'd suffered earlier that day. The first fourth year said, "Whoever was in the frigate Burke played us for complete fools. I'd like to know who it was. They zipped away and totally avoided our ambush with the Pollux. On top of that, they had to have known we had plasma torpedoes, so they blew us away in impulse before we opened fire. They were probably graduates instead of cadets. I'd love to punch whoever was in command of that frigate." Char was about to say something when Samly covered his mouth and shook her head no. "All I know is they were supervised by Commander Jackson and she's the toughest instructor when it comes to simulations and grading," said a second fourth year. "She isn't nicknamed the meat grinder for nothing." "That's just great," thought the 5 fast-track students. "Commander Jackson is our regular instructor." Another fourth year said, "Well, I think that our commander lost a bet with Commander Jackson. He was really pissed at us for dying." The first fourth year said, "Yeah, he gave us a royal eschewing for not even blowing down the shields of the Burke. What were we supposed to do? We were using textbook Orion tactics." As the fourth year cadets griped in the background about killing those responsible for their disgraceful defeat, the fast track students ate their meals as quietly as possible and slipped away as soon as they were finished. Stardate 2271.320, the Dasht-i-Lut Desert, Iran. "This little trip to Iran will enlighten you to the joys of desert planetary survival," said Lieutenant Franz in a way too cheery voice. In Old Persian, this place was known as the Emptiness Desert. The temperatures here can reach up to 70 degrees Celsius and it is considered among the driest and hottest places on the planet Earth. "I hope you read your chapters on desert survival class, wahaha." Their shuttles soon landed at a remote spot where there were huge sand dunes that were nearly 300 meters tall. Down in a basin was a setup that looked like a camp of sorts laid out like a wrecked ship. Lieutenant Franz said, "This is where your ship crashed and your job is to keep each other alive for 1 week. Your ship is named the Queen of the Desert, huh? There are a few supplies here and there, but if you packed your backpacks correctly then you have everything you should need. Outside of that, each of you has a wrist communicator that will monitor your health. You can call to be picked up at any time, but remember, if we extract you then you fail and you'll have to take the test all over again." As the last of the 20 fast-track students got off the shuttles into the searing heat, Franz said, "One last thing to remember, cannibalism is a sure way to get a demerit, so if you think your teammates look tasty then consider your grades." Wahaha. "Aloha, kiddies." "Aloha?" asked Naruto. Samly explained, "It's an informal Hawaiian greeting that can mean hello or goodbye." Lieutenant Franz was saying it in a jaunty way to be obnoxious. "The obnoxious part one ascertained," said Naruto. "I simply did not know the term aloha." Day 1. Naruto found himself sometime alone after the initial organization of the group and decided to make a log entry. Personal log of Naruto Mfao. "We've thoroughly explored the wreckage of our ship and found a shield generator that Cadet Clone and Cadet Simmons are converting it to use solar power to tie into the communications array that we are converting into a solar absorption panel. I've been put in charge of keeping everyone abreast of the rules of desert survival. If all goes according to plan, then by day 3 we will not only have a shield to protect us from temperature extremes and winds, we will also be protected from the harmful UV rays that cause sunburn. It is fair to say this is a group effort because only with all of our advanced degrees would we have been able to construct the apparatus necessary to protect ourselves. On a personal note, I believe we are completely undermining the point of this test in the process. Day 2. Personal log of Mrella, supplemental. Our sand shield generator is working perfectly and was done 12 hours ahead of schedule, so our second night here in the desert will not be uncomfortable at all. The rations we carry are unappetizing but sufficient for our needs. As overheating or freezing is no longer an issue, we are no longer going through our supplies at the rate we initially estimated. After a thorough reassessment by our medics, we have concluded that our supplies will last us 10 days if necessary. It seems that boredom is a bigger enemy than the elements at this point. To this end, we have been teaching each other about the environments we grew up in. Everyone seemed particularly interested about living in the desert on Vulcan, and there was a large question and answer session after Naruto's description. This is starting to seem more like a seminar than a survival trip. Day 4. Personal log of Sammy Schradinger. It seems that this training that Lieutenant Franz set up as a torture session has turned into a meeting of the minds. As our group is bored, we set about modifying the Queen of the Desert to be a bit more comfortable. Since we all brought our tablets with us, we are catching up on all of our homework and reading up on our next section in planetary survival, which is underwater survival. Our biologists have been studying the native flora and fauna so we can eat something aside from rations. As it turns out, Cadet Briscoe is quite gifted in the culinary arts and has prepared a virtual feast using the bare utensils we have. Our entire crew is quite pleased to have food to eat that doesn't taste like sawdust bricks, or rations as Starfleet calls them. I have this feeling that Lieutenant Franz is going to blow a gasket when he finds out. Day 7. Lieutenant Franz got off the shuttle expecting to find a bunch of exhausted, starving cadets glaring at him with pure hatred in their eyes at the horrors they'd endured and maybe bordering on dehydration. Instead, he found a climate-controlled area surrounding the Queen of the Desert and the smell of something delicious cooking. "WWWH, what in the hell is going on here?" he screeched, red in the face. "This is supposed to be desert survival, not a vacation, damn it," echoed across the landscape. Chapter 13, The Warp Theorem. Naruto, Infinity Divide. The Warp Theorem. Blanket disclaimer: I do not own Naruto or Star Trek. Author's note: this chapter will have a bit more space combat. This won't be a regular thing every chapter, and Naruto will be in the captain's chair. Enjoy. Port equals left. Starboard equals right. Last time. Day 4. Personal log of Sammy Schradinger. It seems that this training that Lieutenant Franz set up as a torture session has turned into a meeting of the minds. As our group is bored, we set about modifying the Queen of the Desert to be a bit more comfortable. Since we all brought our tablets with us, we are catching up on all of our homework and reading up on our next section in planetary survival, which is underwater survival. Our biologists have been studying the native flora and fauna so we can eat something aside from rations. As it turns out, Cadet Briscoe is quite gifted in the culinary arts and has prepared a virtual feast using the bare utensils we have. Our entire crew is quite pleased to have food to eat that doesn't taste like sawdust bricks, or rations as Starfleet calls them. I have this feeling that Lieutenant Franz is going to blow a gasket when he finds out. Day 7. Lieutenant Franz got off the shuttle expecting to find a bunch of exhausted, starving cadets glaring at him with pure hatred in their eyes at the horrors they'd endured and maybe bordering on dehydration. Instead, he found a climate-controlled area surrounding the Queen of the Desert and the smell of something delicious cooking. "WWWH, what in the hell is going on here?" he screeched, red in the face. "This is supposed to be desert survival, not a vacation, damn it," echoed across the landscape. Chapter 13. Stardate 2271.327, Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth. Naruto was sitting in Lieutenant Cross's class, Starfleet Sciences, and was rather distracted by the situation with Plyra. He'd gotten back from planetary survival in Iran just yesterday and hadn't been able to contact his mate. Plyra left a message that she was going to be off planet training for 3 weeks. That was all the blonde really knew. Naruto supposed he was rather depressed when a human ensign with an engineer's uniform entered the classroom and passed a data pad to Cross. The lieutenant's eyebrows shot up and he looked directly at Naruto. "Cadet Naruto, on the orders of Commander Montgomery Scott, you are excused from class. Go with Ensign Powell." Naruto stood up and replied, "Yes, sir." He made eye contact with Mrella, and the Kaitian female nodded and motioned that she would take notes for him. As the blonde gathered his things, he pondered, "I heard the USS Enterprise returned from her last 5-year mission and was in dry dock. I haven't had contact with Chief Engineer Scott in years other than the occasional well-wishing. He's a very busy man, of course." Ensign Powell introduced herself as she led Naruto along. "I'm Ensign May Powell. It's nice to meet you, Cadet Naruto. Commander Scott seems very excited to see you. He asks that you bring your data on your warp theorem. We are to meet him in the engineering hall once we've retrieved it. You are in Dorm F, correct?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, I'm in room 125F. I can retrieve the data, but a standard tablet won't handle it. I have an entire extended memory module dedicated to the curved transitional warp theorem." She raised her eyebrows. "An entire extended memory module?" She chuckled. "That's a huge amount of space. What is it, a warp field designed for an entire starship or something?" The blonde simply stated, "That's precisely what it is. I've been developing it for years." "Didn't Commander Scott tell you?" The ensign's eyes goggled. "Are you serious? Aren't you just a cadet?" "I am a graduate of the Vulcan Science Institute with 2 doctoral degrees," said Naruto. "One is in astrophysics and astrodynamics." "And the other?" May asked curiously. "Genetics and xenobiology," replied the blonde. At her incredulous look, he simply stated, "I have wide interests." "I guess you do," she replied in an impressed tone. Naruto retrieved his theorem's memory module from a security safe in his quarters he shared with Mrella, and soon he and Ensign Powell were at the engineering hall. They quickly found Commander Scott entering data into a simulator that was for Starship design. Naruto noticed the chief engineer of the Enterprise hadn't changed much but was sporting a mustache now. Scotty turned to face them and gave them a smile that lit up the room and shook Naruto's hand. "Naruto, let me have a look at you, lad. You've grown into quite a man since I last saw you, cadet, or do you go by Dr. Naruto now?" Naruto raised an amused eyebrow and said, "Either is fine, Commander Scott." "It is good to see you in good health, sir." The Enterprise's chief engineer turned to May and said, "You know warp theory well, May. Wait until you see this." He activated the display and said, "Computer, display command cruiser plus refit design number 23A, NCC 1701 USS Enterprise." A holographic display of a newer, sleeker Enterprise appeared on the holographic display. Naruto looked at it with great scrutiny and said, "You swept back the warp engine pylons to eliminate the critical warp buffeting my theory shows at warp factor 4. Montgomery Scott laughed and slapped Naruto on the back. "I knew you'd get it, lad." May asked confused, "Why are you showing this to a cadet, sir? This is classified information." Scotty grinned and said, "Ensign Powell, Dr. Naruto is a consultant we can trust. Besides, his curved transitional warp theorem is finally going to be applied for real if I have my way. Naruto, may I apply your theory to this new design for comparison purposes to a standard warp field that has a maximum warp factor of 8*?" Naruto took the security lock off his memory module and handed it to Scotty. "This will be interesting, seeing the theorem applied in its completed form, Commander Scott." "By all means, proceed." The chief engineer grinned manically and plugged the module into the computer. When it finished loading minutes later, Scotty already had a display of the Enterprise with a standard warp field projected from it and another Enterprise above it with no warp field projected. The module beeped and the computer said, "Upload complete." "Watch this, Ensign Powell." "We'll see if I'm right," said Commander Scott. "Computer, apply the new warp field just uploaded to the upper example." "Working, adjusting parameters," said the computer in an emotionless voice. "Application complete, projecting." Ensign Powell watched in fascination as a new, tighter, and smoother warp field appeared with a warp factor of 1 beside it. It expanded to 2, 3, 4, and so on until it reached 9, and the computer said, "Warp factor 9 is the furthest design number 23A structural integrity can handle." Theorem applied could go faster with increased structural strength, however. "You could break every speed record in Starfleet history with this curved warp field," gasped Powell in shock. Exactly, said Scotty exuberantly. He beamed at the blonde. Lad, we need to get your theorem patented right away. Starfleet will owe you a great debt if you allow it to be used. That's a feather in your cap that will open a lot of doors for you in the future. Dorm F, Room 125F. Personal log, supplemental. Today I spent a great deal of time with Commander Scott, who has several patents himself. All those years ago when I showed him my basic idea, he said it was brilliant. Though I was honored, I never imagined he would design a ship tailored to my theory. With Commander Scott's guidance, I found that it was not difficult to obtain a patent with the proper connections, as he put it. My new patent is the curved transitional warp theorem, or shortened to curved warp field. I am very excited to see it applied to the Enterprise. It will be 18 to 24 months before the ship is finished, so it is something to look forward to. Unfortunately, the information regarding the USS Enterprise is classified until further notice, so I won't be able to share anything about it except my theorem is now patented. It has been a fulfilling but exhausting day. Naruto finished putting his log entry into his tablet about the time Rella came back from classes, with Naruto's homework as well as her own. She purred happily. So how was your day of skipping classes, and who is Commander Montgomery Scott? Our instructors seemed quite impressed that you knew him. The blonde set his tablet down and answered, Commander Montgomery Scott is the chief engineer of the USS Enterprise. He is a bit of a living legend. He helped me get a warp theorem patented today that I'd been developing over the past few years. Rella smiled and winked an amber eye. Why do I get the impression there is a lot more to the story than that? How did you meet him to begin with? Naruto spent some time explaining how he'd been allowed to visit the USS Enterprise as a boy a few years ago and how he met Mr. Scott and the various members of the crew. After that, Naruto tackled his homework at full speed. 0G Training Center, Phobos, moon of planet Mars. Plyra was really enjoying being in space. Being in zero gravity was scary at first, but after a day or so of getting the hang of it, the young Vulcan woman had taken to it like a fish to water. The only downside for Plyra was she hadn't been able to contact Naruto, as he was marooned in Iran training for planetary survival when she was picked to head out to Mars. The only choice had been to leave a message. There weren't that many communications relays on Phobos, given it was a tiny moon, only 27 kilometers across at its largest diameter, orbiting Mars. Only priority communications went to or from Phobos. Talking to your loved ones was not considered priority. The brunette beauty was also learning how to pilot a Work B*, which was a single-seat service shuttle used for maintenance and utility work on the outside of ships and bases. Its controls reminded her very much of a speeder bike, so it was easy to adapt. There was nothing glamorous about the little utility vehicle, but the simple, robust design appealed to Plyra because of how logically it was made and laid out. It could act independently with manipulators for handling materials, welding, drilling, etc. The little vehicles could also attach to trams and other devices via magnetic lock to tow or move materials much larger than themselves. Aside from the fact Work B was ponderously slow, it was fun as far as the Vulcan girl was concerned. I wonder what Naruto was doing at this moment, thought Plyra to herself. I'm sure he's back at Starfleet Academy by now. She was currently maneuvering her Work B through an obstacle course of building materials. It wasn't difficult, but if you did crash into something, the little utility craft was tough enough that all it did was ding the paint. That's when she saw another Work B go tumbling, apparently out of control. As it spun by, she saw her dark-haired classmate Brea Mathuan at the controls, looking panicked. Brea's voice came over the comm link, and the dark-haired Irish girl was cursing up at Storm before she called out, Plyra, help me. This piece of cack is to stop spinning, K-Chort. I'm gonna get sick. Plyra said calmly, your aft thrusters are in the fully down position, and they are making you spin. Turn off all your thrusters and I'll catch you. I didn't understand half of what Brea just said, perhaps it's best that way. The young Vulcan woman waited until the thrusters on Brea's vehicle stopped and then caught her careening comrade with the manipulators on her Work B, which brought the other vehicle to a sudden halt. Are you all right, Brea? Asked Plyra. Shite, that was close, whispered the young Irish woman. She sighed. Thanks, Plyra, I owe you one. Remind me to buy you a drink when we get back to civilization. Work B 5 and 7, What the hell is going on up there? Crackled a male voice over the comlink. Brea roared, this is 7. The aft thrusters on this bloody hunk of junk are stuck in the downwards position. Air, sir. Clyra nearly face-faulted at Brea's lack of tact. This is work B5. I am preparing to tow work B7 in via magnetic lock as there may be a malfunction with that work B. The controller's voice suddenly sounded a bit tired. Proceed work B5. Bring work B7 back to the repair hangar where we can check it out. Roger that, said Clyra as she backed her work B in front of Brea's and activated her towing magnets. There was a dull clunk noise and Brea said over the comm, docking complete. Take us home, Clyra. Soon Clyra and Brea Mathuan were before their training officer, who was giving Brea a royal ass chewing for disrespecting a superior officer. Clyra fought the urge to face palm as their superior had a bipolar mood swing and praised Clyra for handling things properly before he dismissed them. The dark-haired Brea looked a bit sheepish but was unrepentant for the most part. She grinned, say Clyra, how'd you learn to fly so well? You handled that work B like a professional. The young Vulcan woman said, I used to ride speeder bikes and drive hovercraft back on Vulcan. It just comes naturally to me. Slick, said Brea. I guess I should have learned to drive back in high school. It just didn't interest me. How did you travel then? Asked Clyra curiously. Brea smiled. I mainly used public transportation or horseback. My hometown is pretty rural, and we like it that way. The Vulcan girl was puzzled. Why did you join Starfleet then? If you like living in a rural community, Starfleet seems like an illogical choice. My grandpa was in the service and told me since I was a little girl that I should follow in his footsteps and go into space, said the Irish girl. It's not the fairy tale I'd imagined, but I like it anyway. Dorm F, Room 125F, Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth. Naruto had a pair of shadow clones help him finish his homework while Mrella slept. Somehow the blonde managed to keep his shadow clones a secret from his roommate, although there were several close calls. Personal log, stardate 2271.328. Today we are going to Mrella's least favorite class, basic self-defense. Given the fact that Caitians abhor violence in any form, it is very difficult for her to participate in class. She is quite good with a phaser though and considers it a tool as much as a weapon. At any rate, I am helping her by teaching her a few moves from Panifla which are purely defensive. She is flexible enough to use the style despite the differences in physiology. I've been told that I belong in the advanced class except for phasers and marksmanship. Cadet Samui Schradinger and a few others are in the same situation I am, so our instructor Lieutenant Kaufman has us spar with her or help to train others, so we don't humiliate them. The blonde hybrid finished his log entry and set down his tablet. I wonder how Clyra is doing this morning. I wish I could contact her. Physical Education Hall. Naruto stood on the mats facing his opponent, Samui. They'd never faced each other up to this point, and many of their classmates had running bets on this match. Their instructor, Lieutenant Jenny Kaufman, said begin, and both combatants exploded into blurs the moment that the word was said. Samui thought that Naruto had the physical strength of a normal Vulcan but was taken off guard when he had twice that strength. Damn! He's stronger than I am, thought Samui, sweating. If I'm going to win, I can't hold back. Samui took the offensive and found that Naruto changed gears and was in a totally different fighting stance than his usual Shan. Naruto switched to Kirillifla and thought to himself, Samui is unexpectedly good. I believe she's been holding back on the others all this time. The two blondes exchanged several blows before Samui launched a brutal combo and followed up with a roundhouse kick to Naruto's face, or that was the plan until Naruto caught her kick and stopped her mid-motion. The young woman's ice blue eyes widened in shock as an unmistakable glint of pure mischief filled Naruto's azure pools. Changing his grip on her foot, the blonde hybrid flipped the young Augment woman right out of the sparring ring and ended the match. Lieutenant Kaufman called the match and thought to herself, note to self, never seriously take on Naruto or Samui barehanded. Their classmates were sitting there baffled as most of the fight had been too fast for most of them to even follow. Samui's hair was all over the place when she got back in the ring. She was a bit dizzied and looked very sweaty and disheveled. The two competitors bowed to each other and said, thank you for the spar. Soon the medics were fixing up both of them and got rid of the various bumps and bruises. Samui looked at Naruto and said, "You know, tossing me out of the ring like a ragdoll was rather uncool." Naruto gave a tiny smile and said, "The traditional Kuril-Ifla counter would have been to break your ankle and send you spinning in the horizontal plane. Logically, I did not wish to do that. Our objective was a spar, not a death match." "You are very good. I had no idea you had that kind of physical strength." "You are good yourself," said Samui. "Considering I really didn't want a broken ankle, I guess everything is cool." The Andorian philosopher Shar leaned over and said to his Trill friend Rafi and said, "That was positively insane. They were unbelievably fast and the sounds of their hits impacting made me cringe." Rafi rubbed her chin and got a calculating look on her face. "I'm going to have to get those two to show me some moves. I had no idea they were that good. I could hardly keep up." For her part, Mrella was glad that round was over. Such explosive violence didn't appeal to her at all. She found it frightening. As long as they are unhurt, that is the main thing, thought the peace-loving Kaitian girl. Soon basic self-defense class was over, and everyone had showered off. After that, the group went to the mess hall for lunch. Mess hall. "Tomorrow Commander Jackson is going to throw us into God knows what in our next Starship simulation," said Rafi. "Mark my words, the crazy look in her eye can't be good." Shar said, "Perhaps she'll take it easy on us considering we just got back from the desert." "Don't kid yourself, Shar," said Samui. "Since our group got back from Iran, they've started calling the fast-track students the think tank. Commander Jackson will probably handicap us in some way. Who knows?" Mrella set down her fork beside her salad and said, "Commander Jackson may be called the meat grinder, but her grading was very fair. She commended our first mission simulation." "Fair or not, I expect the difficulty to go up on the next simulation," said Naruto. No one disagreed with that. 0G Training Center, Phobos, moon of planet Mars. Clyra was working on the thruster alignment along of Work B7 with her friend Brea Mathuan. The two of them in their spacesuits in a 0G repair hangar. "Here's the problem," said Clyra. "The right lockdown on the aft thrusters is fused. Give me a plasma cutter, Brea." Brea handed over the tool and said, "How did you figure that out so fast?" Clyra pointed at the fused lock mechanism and said, "It's melted. We'll cut it in half and then torque the halves loose with a torque wrench." The two young women soon had the junked halves of the right lock removed and Clyra tested the left lock that made a grinding noise of metal on metal. "This one is gone too," said the young Vulcan woman. She looked at her tablet and said, "We need a WB24AL thruster lock and a 24AR as well." She highlighted the needed parts and handed the tablet to Brea. "I'll get this left one removed if you could requisition the parts." Brea took the tablet and said, "Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes." A chief warrant officer soon came over and saw the slagged lock floating near Clyra and said, "Was this the thruster's problem, recruit?" Clyra turned to her superior and said, "Yes, Chief Casper, that one failed and the left one is 90% gone." "Let me see," said the chief. Clyra handed half the left thruster lock over to the Casper and he whistled. "This is a goner." "Well spotted, recruited. I suspect that the right one failed some time ago and the left on has been bearing the load for some time," said Clyra. "When was Work B7 inspected last?" Chief Casper spun the worn-down part in his hand and said, "Just last week. This should have been caught. I'll have to look into that." Clyra removed the other half of the left thruster lock and said, "This was out of alignment as well." "This girl is good," thought Casper. The chief said, "Once Mathuan gets back, I'm going to show you both how to do a full inspection on this work. Be recruit Clyra. We're going to see what else was missed. I have a feeling Work B7 got skipped." "Understood, Chief Casper," said Clyra. "This Work B is a mess. It's going to take some time." Simulation Hall, Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth. Ship's log, stardate 2271.329. Captain Naruto of the Imperial Klingon vessel IKV Darkslayer reporting. We are reconnoitering the Klingon/Xindi border in the Klingon Theta E1 system in case any Xindi vessels are violating the ceasefire. Our objective is to destroy and/or capture enemy vessels within our territory," said Naruto into the speaker on his command throne/chair. "Shame we have to be Klingon," said Char from the navigator's position. "Their seating is quite uncomfortable. I'm not too fond of someone constantly looking over my shoulder either," he added as he looked up at Naruto looming over them in his throne. Samly looked up from the science station and said, "Char, I wouldn't be complaining. First, we have a D7C command cruiser which is quite powerful. Secondly, we have Naruto in command and he's the best at Klingon tactics among us. It could be much worse." Rafi asked, "How did I end up in the communications position?" "The same way I ended up at the helm, we drew straws," replied Mrella. "Eyes on your stations," commanded Naruto. "There are 2 planets and an asteroid belt to hide in here. A Xindi ship or ships may be hidden out there, or Federation for all that matter." "Bingo! 2 Xindi light cruisers in an antipodal orbit around Theta EIB," said Samly. "Why would they be in antipodal orbits opposite from one another?" asked Rafi. "That makes no sense tactically because they can't support each other with a planet in between them." The Trill girl looked seriously puzzled. Naruto said, "They are in that formation to maximize their scanning. They are likely to be looking for something like us." Naruto pivoted his throne to face Samly. "Can you identify the light cruisers, Samly?" Samly focused on her sensor setup and said, "The warp signature of the ship on the north side of the planet is Xindi hegemony ship KHS Mystic and the one to the south is KHS Warlock. They don't appear to have seen us." Char said, "Shall I put in a course for one of them? If they don't appear to have spotted us." The blonde Vulcan hybrid rubbed his chin and said, "They will see us soon enough. Maintain course and prepare for silent running." Rella's amber eyes widened. "They will still spot us at warp speed, Naruto. We have to be at sublight speed for silent running to work properly." "I'm counting on that, Mrella," said Naruto. "We'll power back up before they can reach us." The group was sweating as they plodded along at warp 2 with their active sensors in passive mode. "Warlock turned and is headed straight for us at warp factor 5, said Char as he turned to Naruto. "They've fired 2 drones asterisk which are also moving at warp 5. They are at 200,000 kilometers and they've already thrown down the gauntlet." Naruto suddenly grinned, much to Char's shock. "Red alert, power up the tractor beams. Power up all weapons and shields starting now. Have our marines ready for transport." Samly reported, "Warlock is opening fire. At this range they'll be lucky if they do much damage." There was a slight shaking as the green Xindi disruptor bolts grazed the front shields of the Dark Slayer. "Shield damage is minimal at 4%, said Samly. Char looked back again at Naruto who said, "Steady as she goes, Char, trust me." He turned to Samly and said, "Has the Mystic reacted yet?" Samly nodded. "The Mystic is slowly trailing the Warlock at 250,000 kilometers at warp factor 4. Warlock will reach us long before Mystic can intervene even at maximum warp." Mrella said, "Warlock is still closing rapidly, they are at 100,000 kilometers. The crimson color of the Xindi ship was visible on the viewscreen by now." Naruto said to Rafi, "Begin maximum ECM. Send out a coded SOS to Klingon Imperial Command that the D6 Heavy Cruiser Havoc is requesting help." Rafi did so with a puzzled look on her face and said, "Our transmission was jammed, but, wait. If the Xintis think we're a heavy cruiser when we are a much more powerful command cruiser." "Exactly," said Naruto. "It's the same hull type. Hopefully they won't figure things out until it's too late." He turned to Mrella. "When the 2 enemy drones reach 20,000 kilometers, lock onto them with our forward tractor beams. Char, stand by on all forward firing weapons. Our alpha strike will be a split salvo, disruptors first, then phasers second." The crew carefully watched between their stations and the Warlock speeding in for the kill. "Warlock is at 50,000 kilometers and still closing rapidly," said Samly as the light cruiser grew larger and larger on the viewscreen. "They don't appear to be slowing down at all from their head-on course." "Fools," thought the blonde hybrid. Naruto asked Samui, how far out is the Mystic? Samui's eyes flashed over the scanning screen and she said, the Mystic is still 150,000 kilometers out. Warlock is at 40,000 kilometers, said Mrella. The drones are at 20,000 kilometers, Naruto. Activate the forward tractor beams and capture those drones, said Naruto. Rafi, drop the defensive ECM to half and begin offensive jamming on the Warlock. Both drones are captured, Naruto, said Mrella. Warlock is firing phasers at 30,000 kilometers, said Samui. Hold on everyone, said Naruto. There was a huge shock as the Dark Slayer was slammed by every phaser and disruptor the Warlock could bring to bear. Electricity arced as the front shield withered under the blue and green lances of death from the Xinti light cruiser. Forward shield down 73%, reported Samui. Warlock is at 15,000 kilometers and closing. Impatient, aren't they? Asked Naruto. Then he said calmly, Char, you may open fire now. The Dark Slayer suddenly lit up with the power of 4 green disruptor bolts and a second later, 5 blue phaser beams. The Xinti light cruiser's front shield buckled as the disruptors plowed into it and the 5 phasers cut clean through into the crimson-colored hull of the Warlock, causing massive damage. Lock the aft tractor beam on the Warlock, said Naruto. Drop the forward shield. Beam over the Marines, boarding parties go. Transporters active, boarding parties away, said Rafi. Our Marines are aboard the Warlock at vital points. Raise forward shield, said Naruto. Give me an update on the Mystic, Mrella. The Mystic has increased her speed to warp 8, she is at 120,000 kilometers and closing rapidly, said Mrella from the helm station. Naruto nodded. Cycle the phasers and turn to port so our shield facing the Mystic is the number 2 shield. Ready the waste phasers as well. Rafi said, reports are coming in. The auxiliary and emergency stations on the Warlock have been seized. If we can capture engineering and the bridge, the Warlock is ours. Turn us away from the Mystic and let's tow our prize out of here, said Naruto. Turn us hard to port, warp factor 3, Mrella. The enemy drones have lost their guidance and gone inert, said Samui. It appears that the Warlock is ours. Rafi said excitedly, our Marines just checked in. The Warlock has been captured. Naruto exhaled and said, drop the tractor beams on the drones. Roll a nuclear space mine out of the shuttle bay doors. It should be active and be right in the way of the Mystic when she arrives. Once we've traveled 10,000 kilometers, roll out the other one. The Xintis have to get the Warlock back or they are facing a diplomatic disaster. The IKV Dark Slayer quickly turned away from the Mystic with the captured Warlock in tow and started slowly accelerating away. They felt the shockwave as the careening Mystic blundered into the first mine and then stumbled into the second. View screen aft, ordered Naruto. The Mystic was badly damaged and at a full stop. Samui said, their facing shield is down, Naruto, Mystic is dead in the water. I advise we fire our waste phasers and finish her off. 2 seconds and 2 phaser bursts from the Dark Slayer later, the Mystic ceased to exist. The lights changed back to normal and simulation ended came up on the screen. Everyone relaxed a bit as Commander Triella Jackson entered the simulation room. She said in her usual gruff manner, Cadet Naruto, you are a damn good Klingon. Thank you, Commander, said Naruto. As the group of 5 followed their commander back into the classroom, Triella said, I'll have your full performance evaluations next time. Come up to the desk for your detailed evaluations of your mission on the USS Burke last time. After that you are dismissed for an early lunch. You earned it. Commander Jackson was soon in the observation room with Rear Admiral James T. Kirk, who was laughing as he watched the simulator. Did they live up to your expectations, Jim? She asked with humor in her voice. This think tank group is outstanding, said Kirk with a chuckle. To think Lieutenant Commander Taraya's son would be so unorthodox and tricky when she's so by the book. If they are this good on their second combat simulation, then I can't wait to see what they're like in a year. Work them hard, Triella, but other than chain of command discipline I see little problem with their performance. He smiled. I'm eager to see what they do next. Keep me in the loop on their simulations. Will do, sir, replied Jackson. Mess hall. Once again, the fourth-year upperclassmen sitting a table over from the think tank griping and carrying on about their latest loss. "I don't believe this, Otom," said a female human fourth year to her friend. "We were in command in the Mystic and those fucking idiots in the Warlock broke ranks and attacked recklessly. It's no wonder we lost. Even worse, they got captured." Otom replied, "I agree, Jackie. We were at a huge disadvantage after that, but those space mines were just adding insult to injury. I can't believe we got taken out so quickly. I still can't accept the enemy fooled the Warlock into believing it was the D6 Havoc when it was the D7C Darkslayer. By the time they realized their mistake, they'd already been crippled. God damn it. Just keep your heads low. They are seriously pissed," advised Rafi. Everyone else just nodded in silence. Well. "We meet again, Pussycat," said Cadet Joseph Kirov to Mrella out of nowhere. He was at the opposite table from the angry fourth years. Samly saw Mrella cringe at the name and said, "Rella is a Kaitian, not a pet cat." "Not missing a beat," Kirov said, "and hello to you, gorgeous." Samly rolled her eyes and was about to say something in retort, but the fourth years pounced first. The female human growled, "Kirov, you jackass. You and your team of idiots on the Warlock fucked up everything." Kirov smiled weakly and said, Honestly, Jackie. We really thought it was a D6 heavy cruiser we were facing. Hee, it was just a simulation." "Just a simulation," shrieked Jackie. She practically had steam coming out of her ears. "It's our grades here. I ought to wring your scrawny neck, third year." "It not a big deal, beautiful," said Kirov in a frightened voice. "No need to pull rank or anything." "Bastard, your group broke ranks and we could have won," roared Jackie. "Get them guys." The fourth years charged over the think tank's table and began pummeling Kirov and his third-year compatriots. "We're out of here. Let the Marines deal with this mess," said Samly as the think tank cleared out of the fighting. A wild brawl broke out, but somehow the fast-track cadets made it out of the mess hall unscathed as the Marines moved in to break it up. Shar sat down looking a bit disheveled. He'd crawled out under the tables. "Samly, you and Naruto could have taken them all." "One must choose one's battles wisely, Shar," said Naruto sagely. Samly sighed. "That, and we don't need demerits for fighting. There are enough issues to deal with as it is." "Good point," said Shar. Rafi and Mrella nodded in agreement. Chapter 14, Swimming. Naruto, Infinity Divide. Swimming. Blanket disclaimer: I do not own Naruto or Star Trek. Author's note. Well, it seems that there was a law against augments joining Starfleet that was in Deep Space Nine, that I never saw. We're just going to say that Samly is an exception or a test case to see if augments can be integrated into the fleet, since rewriting everything over the last several chapters seems like a bad idea at this point. Other than that, I'm throwing myself on the mercy of the court, as I honestly had no idea about this law. Here is the next chapter. Enjoy. Port equals left. Starboard equals right. Last time. Samly rolled her eyes and was about to say something in retort, but the fourth years pounced first. The female human growled, "Kirov, you jackass. You and your team of idiots on the Warlock fucked up everything." Kirov smiled weakly and said, Honestly, Jackie. We really thought it was a D6 heavy cruiser we were facing. Hee, it was just a simulation." "Just a simulation," shrieked Jackie. She practically had steam coming out of her ears. "It's our grades here. I ought to wring your scrawny neck, third year." "It not a big deal, beautiful," said Kirov in a frightened voice. "No need to pull rank or anything." "Bastard, your group broke ranks and we could have won," roared Jackie. "Get them guys." The fourth years charged over the think tank's table and began pummeling Kirov and his third-year compatriots. "We're out of here. Let the Marines deal with this mess," said Samly as the think tank cleared out of the fighting. A wild brawl broke out, but somehow the fast-track cadets made it out of the mess hall unscathed as the Marines moved in to break it up. Shar sat down looking a bit disheveled. He'd crawled out under the tables. "Samly, you and Naruto could have taken them all." One must choose one's battles wisely, Char, said Naruto sagely. Samui sighed. That, and we don't need demerits for fighting. There are enough issues to deal with as it is. Good point, said Char. Rafi and Rella nodded in agreement. Chapter 14. Stardate 2271.330, 0G Training Center, Phobos, moon of planet Mars. Clyra was floating in the 0G cantina/mess hall with the other off-duty recruits. She was tired but felt good about herself. Chief Casper had walked her and Brea through inspecting the dismal Work B7, and then the two recruits did Work B12 on their own, with Casper simply observing. 7 was currently down for repairs, but 12 only required some quick maintenance and it was ready to go. I guess we'll spend the day working on Work B7 tomorrow, thought Clyra. Off-duty 1 was allowed to imbibe, so Brea Mathuan was drinking her fill of rotgut Martian brewed beer. Clyra couldn't stand the stuff. You know, this place could sure use some music, said Brea. It's too quiet except for the talking. What do you think, Clyra? I have my Kathyra in its case, said Clyra. I haven't had time to practice recently though. Brea looked a bit confused and said, what the hell is a Kathyra? It's what you humans call a Vulcan lyret or lute, explained the brunette. Oh. Okay, I've seen those played on programs, said the Irish girl. Do you know any Irish folk music? Clyra had a very flat look that said, are you serious? Then the Vulcan beauty said, I'm afraid not. I know many traditional Vulcan songs though. Would you like to hear? Clyra soon had the group rather shocked with her classical Gallic Vulcan songs that were actually folk tales set to music. Her higher-pitched, operatic voice washed over the cantina in powerful waves that astounded the group there. She's incredible, whispered Brea to another. The young Vulcan woman entertained them all evening. She finished with the only song she knew from Terra called Mars Bonfire from the 22nd century, which elicited a great deal of applause. Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth, Dorm F, Room 125F. Mrella was looking at her one-piece blue and white swimsuit that had been issued to her by Starfleet. The style didn't bother her, but there was one glaring issue: there was no hole for her tail. The young Kaitian woman's ears drooped slightly, and her amber eyes narrowed. Naruto had learned to read Mrella's moods well since they started rooming together. He noticed her tail was stiff and kinked in irritation. What is wrong, Mrella? Asked the blonde hybrid. You look perturbed. We are supposed to start swimming survival training courses tomorrow and my swimsuit is cut for a human, explained the Kaitian girl. There is no place for my tail and it will be most uncomfortable. Naruto sighed softly and said, You're just checking your swimsuit for the first time, Rella? She nodded. Let's go down to requisitions and get a proper swimsuit for you then. Rella smiled and her ears perked up. Her tail took its usual relaxed posture. Thank you for coming with me, Naruto. The people in requisitions aren't very kind. The two roommates went across the campus to get a swimsuit from Rella, and she was purring softly in happiness that she didn't have to go by herself. Her purring abruptly stopped when she saw the line leading to the requisitions building. It seems this will take some time, said Naruto. I never realized they are always this busy. I was under the impression they were only this crowded during enrollment periods. 1 hour later, the pair was finally at the front of the line where two disgruntled clerks were manning the counter. Rella held up her current swimsuit and said, I was issued a swimsuit for a human and I need one for a Kaitian. I wish to exchange this, please. Let me see the human suit, said the clerk. He quickly scanned the stock code on it and said, Cadet Mrella. She nodded and he said, ID please. Mrella held up her cadet identification card and he nodded. The clerk looked her over with a very appraising eye and said lecherously, I guess these measurements from your old suit are correct then, eh? Mrella replied in a flat tone, My measurements are correct, sir. The clerk smiled and said, I'll see what we've got for all those curves, cadet. A few minutes later he came back with an identical suit with the back cut down further for a Kaitian. She quickly inspected the suit and said to the clerk, Thank you, this will be fine, sir. Come back soon, sweetheart, said the clerk as he gazed at the sway in Rella's hips as she walked away. If the Kaitian girl noticed, she paid no attention to the man. Rella said happily, "Let's go back to the dorm and I'll try on this new swimsuit." Dorm F, room 125F. Naruto was doing his best to focus on his tablet as Mrella changed into her swimsuit right in front of him. The blonde thought to himself, "You'd think I would be desensitized by now given she sleeps naked. I wonder if all Kaitians are such exhibitionists." He heard her giggle as she looked into the mirror at different angles. "What do you think, Naruto?" asked the Kaitian beauty. "Does it look okay on me?" Naruto looked up and saw her in her sleek swimsuit. He did his best not to stare. "It fits you quite well, Mrella." She smiled and gave him a generous view of her cleavage. I'm glad you like it," she purred. There was a knocking on the door and Mrella said, "I'll get it," and darted over to the door with her dainty feet not making a sound. It was Rafi and Samui at the door and they were quickly invited in by Mrella. Rafi grinned and said, "Do you always run around in your swimsuit, Mrella?" The Kaitian girl chuckled and said, "I had to make sure it fits. We're starting our swimming survival training tomorrow, you know. It turned out I had a human suit, so I had to get one designed for a Kaitian." Samui looked around the dorm room and noticed Naruto wasn't in sight. "Is Naruto here?" asked the blonde Augment. "He's doing his homework on his bed as usual," said Mrella. "Come in and sit." "Hi Naruto," called Rafi into the bedroom. Naruto came out deciding he probably wouldn't get much homework done anyway. "Hello Rafi, Samui. Tea?" "I wouldn't mind some rum if you've got any," said the Trill. "I'm afraid that Vulcan tea and Kaitian fruit drinks are all we have available, Rafi, except for what's available through the food replicator," said Naruto. Mrella handed Rafi a sweet fruit drink and offered one to Samui. "I think I'd prefer tea, thank you," said Samui. "I'll brew some," said Naruto as he got out an ornate Vulcan tea set. Samui was looking about and saw the beautiful art decorating the walls. They were mainly landscapes with the looks of rainforests and jungles. The room was accented with tropical flowers as well. "Your room is quite nicely decorated," said the Augment girl, impressed. "Everything here has a rainforest theme." I'm glad you like it," purred Mrella happily. "Everything here reminds me of my home on Kate. I've encouraged Naruto to decorate, but he has chosen very little to liven up the place. He only has one painting up above his bed, but it leaves quite an impression." As Naruto sat down at the table to brew some tea, Mrella took their two guests into the neat and clean bedroom where they saw a picture of some sort of explosive dust/lightning storm. The painting seemed to hold so much uncontained, raw power that it was jarring to the viewer. "Whoa! What is this?" asked the Trill girl. "Everything in your quarters is so calm and soothing, but this. I've offered to take it down, but it is special to me," said Naruto. "You are looking at a painting of a sand firestorm over the desert in Vulcan's forge." Samui said, "It looks like the lightning could leap off the painting. It has so much explosive energy. I can't really describe it. My cousin Zirin painted it," explained the hybrid. "It's called the Maelstrom, and this is how she sees me." "She sees you as a violent sandstorm?" asked Rafi. "That seems odd." "Zirin is a very good artist for all of her idiosyncrasies," explained Naruto. "She told me this was what she envisioned when we first met years ago." "I think it's a very moving piece," said the Kaitian girl kindly. "Somehow I can see Naruto like this from seeing him spar with you, Samui." Samui looked at the painting and thought of her recent spar with Naruto. "Cool, I could see that." The four were sitting down discussing their recent simulation. "We do well in the actual simulations, but we need to follow ranks and titles according to Commander Jackson," said Samui. "We should either use our ranks or titles specific to our positions at the time." Rafi was looking over her critique and said, "Yeah, our command structure and discipline need to shape up from what she says. I guess the easiest thing to do would be to use titles like Helm and Navigator since it's basically roulette as to where we end up." The Trill added, "It would get confusing if we used our rank because we're all cadets." "We ought to get Char's input as well," said Mrella. "He is part of our team too." "That seems logical," agreed Naruto. "What dorm room is he in? We should invite him." He's in room 140F, replied Sammy. One of us should fetch him if he's available. The beautiful blonde said while looking pointedly at Rafi. Rafi stared back challengingly at Sammy and said, yes, one of us should. I'll go fetch him, said Naruto. Room 140F. Shar was talking with his human roommate Cadet Shelley Wilson of Earth. She was also a fast-track student and was a medical doctor. They were discussing the philosophy behind the Hippocratic Oath when Naruto knocked. Shelley got the door and the pretty auburn-haired cadet blushed when she saw Naruto standing there. Hello Cadet Naruto. Good evening, Cadet Wilson, said Naruto formally. I hope I'm not interrupting your evening. She smiled and said, you're not interrupting anything at all. Shar and I were just discussing a bit of philosophy. Please come in. The Vulcan hybrid followed Shelley in and saw the Andorian reclined back in his chair. Shar was surprised to see Naruto. Naruto, it's good to see you, said the blue-skinned cadet. What brings you by? Our group was discussing the most recent simulation we were in and we agreed that your input would be beneficial for all parties concerned, said Naruto. Would you be available to join us? May I join you as well? Asked Wilson hopefully. My team of 5 exclusively deals with medicine and life sciences, so we don't do the bridge simulations your group does. Shar said, you might find it a bit boring, Shelley. The medic deflated a bit but perked up when Naruto said, there is no reason you can't attend if you wish, Wilson. Just call me Shelley, Naruto. I'll get my boots, she said with a smile. Starfleet Headquarters, Starship Bureau of Design and Repair, San Francisco, Rear Admiral Tom's office. Rear Admiral Lucian Tom was having a meeting with Commander Montgomery Scott about the latest innovation in warp drive mechanics, the curved transitional warp field theorem. Commander Scott, after reviewing the curved warp field, the board has unanimously agreed that it should be incorporated into the USS Enterprise refit. I'm astonished that you found such a talent in a mere cadet, Commander. It was pure luck, sir, said Scotty. When I met Naruto years ago, he was just a boy but his theory was so fantastic. I stayed in touch with him while he got his doctorate and encouraged him now and then, but that was it. He developed it from the ground up. The Admiral sat back and pondered for a few moments before he said, how good do you think Dr. Naruto would be at designing new warp configurations and new ship designs, Mr. Scott? Scotty leaned forward and said, challenge him to it. His degree is in astrodynamics and astrophysics. He's fully versed in warp architecture and starship design. The lad is practically a ball of untapped potential. Tom nodded and said, I want to meet this boy. Room 125F. How's it going, Shelley? Asked Rafi. The Trill was a bit curious about the medic's presence. You usually have your nose stuck in a medical text of some sort or other. Shelley smiled and said, I decided to sit in and see what the command team does. I might decide that the captain's chair is preferable to sick bay. The group was soon sitting and discussing their grades. Shar grumbled, I was marked down for indecisiveness and not obeying a superior. It must have been when you looked back at me and wondered about my orders, said Naruto. That's the only thing I can think of. Maybe, said the Andorian. That reminds me, did you actually smile when the Xyntus attacked us? Have you ever seen me smile? Asked Naruto. Shar frowned and thought and said, no, I haven't now that you mention it. Would you smile in the face of an enemy attack? Questioned the blonde hybrid. No, of course not, said the Andorian. I guess it was a trick of the light. I love mind games, thought Naruto laughing inside. The group turned in early given their underwater training started tomorrow. Stardate 2271.331, Underwater Training Center, Kwajalein Atoll, Planet Earth. Welcome to Kwajalein Atoll Base Cadets, said a tall blonde-haired woman in her 30s. I'm Lieutenant Valerie Pushkin and I will be instructing you along with the staff here on swimming and underwater survival. You'll also be trained in basic underwater navigation, so you won't get lost. Vehicles such as submersible rovers, full submarines and surface craft are for a later, more advanced course if you desire to take them. That is your option later. Your job during this week is to fill your minds and bodies with the knowledge to survive in a water or underwater environments. Pushkin added, there is only one other thing I will say, I know most of you are geniuses of some sort or other. I don't give a damn. You are Starfleet cadets and I will train you as such. Obey your teachers and trainers to the letter and we'll all get along nicely. You don't, you and your classmates will be severely punished. That is all. A chief petty officer said, all right cadets, file into your temporary quarters and change into your swimming gear. Report back here after you do. You have 20 minutes, go. I can already tell this is going to be a week in paradise, said Sammy to the others as they trotted over to the large hall where the bunks were 4 to a unit. Sammy said, Rella, Shelley, bunk with Rafi and I. Naruto was with Char when 2 other male fast-track cadets joined them. One was a human with freckles and red hair. I guess we haven't been formally introduced. I'm Dr. Gregory Hammond with the medical group. Nice to meet you. He shook hands with Char and Naruto. This is my friend Clone from the engineering group. Hammond said as he motioned towards a beefy green-skinned Orion male. His hair was black and in a topknot. Everybody in the foursome introduced themselves and quickly changed into their blue and white standard-issue swimming suits. Can't wait to see the girls dressed out, said Clone. All that I can do will make this training worthwhile, especially Lita. Naruto didn't really know Lita, but she was a very attractive and flirtatious Orion girl with classically green skin and long black hair. She already had a reputation as a man-eater. Char shook his snowy head and said, the girls I like, but this heat and humidity are going to be taxing on my physiology. As they trotted out to the beach, they broke into a run realizing their 20 minutes were nearly up. As it turned out, 2 of the cadets were late, so they all ended up doing 500 push-ups each. After that, the group was taught the basics of swimming by petty officers throwing them off a dock into the water to make sure they didn't sink. For his part, Naruto could swim okay but had to fight back the urge to walk back over to the dock and grab a particularly sadistic petty officer that was being rough on Rafi who couldn't swim well. Sammy seemed fine and Rella was a very good swimmer, so that left Char, who seemed okay even though he was complaining constantly about the barbarism of it all. Day 2. Naruto found that Char, Clone and Gregory Hammond were all pretty good swimmers, but their petty officer Davis in charge of them apparently woke up on the wrong side of the bed every single morning. At mess, the 4 males were so tired that even looking at the girls took effort. They all wanted to sleep but needed their energy. If I ever complain about the food at the academy again, you have formal permission to slap me, Naruto. It's gourmet dining compared to this fare, said Char. Kelp is actually very good for its nutritional value, offered Gregory in an attempt at being upbeat about it. Then he hung his head and said, it does taste rather bad the way it's been prepared though. I'm so fucking tired. The blonde hybrid wolfed down his food and said, after we eat, I plan to do some homework and rest. I'm skipping the homework and going straight to bed, said Char in an exhausted tone. I'm with the Andorian, said Clone tiredly. I'm so tired that I can't even chase women. My family would be ashamed of me. Day 4. Rella surfaced from her dive and said to Naruto, diving in these beautiful waters is so much fun. It's hard to believe that Bikini Atoll was once used for nuclear testing. Naruto nodded. Rella seemed overjoyed here in the tropics. He said, the Earth is fortunate that they never had a nuclear war like Vulcan did. The Kaitian girl's ears drooped but then perked back up. But the people of Vulcan learned and adapted. Many races would not have survived what yours did. Hey there, cutie, said Clone to Mrella. How's my favorite Kaitian girl? Mrella smiled and said, let me guess, you struck out with Lita again. Clone slumped his shoulders. Is it that obvious? Naruto said, it is my Orion friend. Mrella broke out into melodious laughter before she stuck her oxygen rebreather in her mouth and dived again. The Orion male said, I never knew how sexy alien girls were till I joined Starfleet. There are so many to look at that my head gets dizzy sometimes. The blonde hybrid said, beauty comes in many forms, Clone. It's a shame Clyra isn't here. I would love to see her in a snug swimsuit. Clone chuckled, it seems funny hearing that from a Vulcan. I guess under all that logic Vulcan guys aren't that different from other guys. Naruto raised a blonde eyebrow and said, "We are all humanoids, it is genetic and can't be helped." Day 6. The cadets were all going through an underwater maze to test their navigational skills. Most made it without exceeding the 30-minute mark, but some had to retake the test. Mrella made it through the fastest in 12 minutes. The rest of the think tank command team all made it through on their first try. Rafi barely made it in 29 minutes. "A pass is a pass," said the exhausted Trill. "I guess I need to practice more. I'll take space over water anytime." Navigating by sight is difficult with the water refracting your vision. Day 7. Everyone was assembled in their regular cadet uniforms on the landing pad. "You've all passed the physical and mental requirements of basic underwater survival and navigation," said Lieutenant Pushkin. "Many of you need to continue your exercises to build up your endurance, but you did well generally. Consider the basic course passed. Next time you are out here, I expect to see you all performing better as swimmers. Fall out and board your shuttles." 30 minutes later, the 20 students were split between 2 troop transport shuttles with the belongings and head back to the main campus in San Francisco. Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Dorm F, Room 125F. Personal log, Stardate 2271.337. Mrella and I have thankfully returned to our quarters. I found the swimming exercises to be beneficial, but the sheer amount of them in the last week was taxing. I am not exhausted or physically sore like most of the others, but that is due to my unique metabolism. Upon my return, I found that Tlyra is still off planet, and I have orders to report to Starfleet headquarters to meet with an Admiral Lucien Tom who I am unfamiliar with. My research indicates he is a Rear Admiral in charge of Starfleet Command's Starship Bureau of Design and Repair. He holds a master's degree in astrodynamics and has been in the Bureau on the repair and construction side for 20 years. The only logical reason he would want to see me is my warp theorem, so I will have to be prepared. Stardate 2271.339, 0G Training Center, Phobos, moon of planet Mars. Tlyra was working under the watchful eye of Chief Warrant Officer Casper as she completed the repairs on the last work B with Brea following her lead. "It's finished, sir," said Tlyra. "Work B-19 has been given a complete inspection and overhaul." Casper typed in a few things on his tablet and said, "Very nicely done. You have passed all the requirements, recruit. Not only is your operator's license approved, but also you are now fully qualified to inspect and maintain work Bs." "I wasn't aware I was being tested," said Tlyra. The chief chucked and said, "You picked up on this so well that I decided to give you the test for practice. You passed with flying colors. Normally you don't do this training until you are at least an engineer's mate, so you are way ahead of the game, recruit Tlyra." "Way to go, Tlyra," said Brea happily. "Glad he didn't test me. I'd have flunked out." "Thank you, sir," responded the Vulcan girl. "I hope to continue to do well." "I think you're going places, recruit," said Casper with a grin. "You've both worked hard today. Go grab some chow." Starfleet Academy, Simulation Hall. The think tank exited the simulator. They had been back on the frigate USS Burke again and supported other ships in a Federation versus Klingon fleet action scenario. Rafi had been in command, and they distinguished themselves by destroying a Klingon frigate and chasing off another without taking much damage in return. Considering Klingon F-5 frigates were better than Federation frigates, it was no mean feat. Their admiral was the fourth-year Jackie Nottoway, who praised them highly for keeping the Klingon at bay while she used her dreadnought to wreck the enemy's command ship, incidentally captained by Joseph Kirov and his group of third years. It had been a decisive victory for Admiral Jackie Nottoway's fleet. Commander Triella Jackson was soon talking to her cadets. "You did much better this time maintaining your chain of command," she said gruffly as usual. "That was some good work detecting those transporter mines before they wrecked your ship. I think this group might have potential after all." "Nice job on the science station, Naruto," said Rafi. "Samui, you were great the way you side-slipped the mines after Naruto detected them. As your captain, I'm treating you all to a huge feast in the mess hall." "Your generosity knows no bounds," said Samui to her roommate in a flat tone. You may praise me more, exclaimed the Trill. Being at navigation is kind of fun, said Mrella happily. Except for firing weapons, I don't like that part. Communications was crazy with all those ships involved, said Shar. It was difficult to know what to pipe through. Better to learn in a simulation than in actual battle, said Naruto. Raffi laughed. No need to be so serious, guys. Let's go eat. Hopefully the fourth years won't attack anybody today, said Shar Darley. Stardate 2271.344, Starfleet Headquarters, Starship Bureau of Design and Repair. 5 days later, Naruto walked into a large staff meeting room where Rear Admiral Tom was sitting with a couple of others. Tom was a longtime staff officer in his 70s with a thick gray mop of hair and looked very laid back. To his right was a very studious-looking man of Asian descent with full captain's insignia on his lapels. He looked to be in his 50s. Lastly was another full captain of Vulcan heritage. She was studying Naruto with extreme scrutiny in her dark eyes. Her brown hair was in a conservative bun. Tom motioned Naruto in and said, "Welcome, Dr. Naruto, please come in and join us. This is Captain Hiro Suzuki, who is our head of Starship design, and Captain Vok, who is our head of astrodynamics and warp theory." Naruto came up and gave the traditional Vulcan salute and said, "I come to serve." Rear Admiral Tom and Captain Suzuki both looked a bit confused by this greeting, but Vok nodded slightly to herself and returned his salute. "Your service honors us. Please be seated." Naruto bowed and took his seat opposite of the Admiral, who smiled slightly to put Naruto at ease. He pushed a touchscreen and the Enterprise with Naruto's curved warp field appeared in a holographic projection. Tom simply said, "Dr. Naruto, I think you'll be happy to know that your curved warp field has been fully approved for the new refit of the USS Enterprise. Our staff has been very excited to meet you since this breakthrough." Captain Suzuki said, "To find someone as young as yourself possessing such advanced talent is rare indeed. It's a pleasure to meet you." Vok said with hard eyes, "So you are the second hybrid after Spock?" Naruto nodded and met her stare head-on. "Commander Spock is a friend of mine." Naruto and the three officers discussed Naruto's warp design theorem in detail until all parties seemed satisfied. Admiral Tom said, "Dr. Naruto, I have a challenge for you. During your next 3 semesters you have the option of independent study credits. I want you to design a basic ship for me as an outside consultant. Are you up to the task?" "What kind of ship?" asked Naruto. The Admiral grinned. "Your tentative design proposal would be to replace the older light cruisers of the NCC 900 Texas class, which, as you no doubt know, were originally sublight ships. I have the general specifications the fleet is using, but I want you to only be limited by your imagination. Many designs are being submitted and we want to combine the best features of those designs. The only requirement I'm giving you is to make the design flexible so it could be converted into a scout or a minesweeper, for instance." "I will give it my best, sir," replied the blonde hybrid. "I was planning on doing an engineering project for independent study regardless, so this works out well." "Excellent, Doctor, we look forward to the fruits of your labor. Captain Suzuki will be your contact here at headquarters for questions and guidance." Then the Admiral added, "By the way, your first payment for the licensed use of your warp theory is being deposited as we speak. You are going to be a very wealthy young man, Dr. Naruto." Vok said, "I will be available to discuss things with you as well, Dr. Naruto. I am as interested as Suzuki in your progress." Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "I will submit my reports to both parties then." "Excellent, Dr. Naruto. You are dismissed," said Admiral Tom. The blonde hybrid bowed and excused himself. Now Naruto had a mission. After Naruto left, Rear Admiral Tom asked, "What is your opinion, Vok? You voiced plenty of doubts before this meeting." "He looks just like his mother," said Vok. "He's a very handsome young man." Tom and Suzuki face faulted. The Rear Admiral coughed and said, "I meant his capabilities as a ship designer and warp engineer." Vok said, "He answered all of my questions in a quick and direct manner. My doubts about him are dispelled." "I personally can't wait to see his paper project," said Suzuki. It's always good to have fresh blood, although I'm sure his ship will be unrealistic compared to Starfleet's needs. We need a design that can rapidly be mass-produced for the war, which is no doubt coming. I picture his design as being complex and probably difficult to build just from his personality. Who knows, said the Admiral. Regardless, it should be interesting. Starfleet Academy. Naruto got back in time for lunch and his afternoon classes. Meeting up with several high-ranking officers had been taxing on the blonde hybrid. He wanted a bit of normalcy, and more importantly, he wanted to see his mate. The message she sent indicated she should be back on Earth by now. I hope all goes well and we can see each other soon. It's been a month since we even spoke via transmission. Clara and her friend Brea Mathuan were touring the Starfleet Academy campus when the young Vulcan woman's sharp eyes saw her mate conversing with his fellow members of the think tank. Clara hid a tiny smile and thought, there is that spiky blonde hair I know and love. She walked directly towards her mate and called his name out, Naruto Mfao. Naruto whipped around and saw Clara standing there in gray urban camouflage combat fatigues and a snug black tank top that showed off all her generous curves. Her long hair was pulled back in a tight braid. The young couple quickly moved to each other and touched their middle and index fingers together affectionately. Both basked in each other's presence for a moment before they spoke. I've missed you, my mate, said Naruto. I've longed to see you as well, said Clara as the couple gently touched their foreheads together. Rafi looked a bit shocked as she watched the young Vulcan couple. What happened to the Vulcan salute? This is way over the top. Rella said disappointedly, I believe that's Naruto's mate. He keeps a hologram of her by his bed. Her ears drooped a bit. I had no idea, said Shar. The Trill said, she's beautiful. Samly felt a twinge of jealousy and then said, let's introduce ourselves to her. Brea was standing to the side feeling rather awkward. My always logical friend practically leapt at that guy. I assume he is her boyfriend. I'll never figure out Vulcans. Hey Clara, who is your friend? Clara turned to Brea and said, this is my mate Naruto. We are betrothed. Brea's eyes nearly popped out of her head. I had no idea. Samly and the rest of the think tank came over to introduce themselves, and Clara and Naruto quietly held hands as everyone else talked. For right now, just being together was enough. Chapter 15, the USS Darwin. Naruto, Infinity Divide. The USS Darwin. Blanket disclaimer, I do not own Naruto or Star Trek. Author's note. Ever wonder what happened to Shizuka Nadeshiko? This chapter you'll find out. Enjoy. Port equals left. Starboard equals right. Last time. Clara and her friend Brea Mathuan were touring the Starfleet Academy campus when the young Vulcan woman's sharp eyes saw her mate conversing with his fellow members of the think tank. Clara hid a tiny smile and thought, there is that spiky blonde hair I know and love. She walked directly towards her mate and called his name out, Naruto Mfao. Naruto whipped around and saw Clara standing there in gray urban camouflage combat fatigues and a snug black tank top that showed off all her generous curves. Her long hair was pulled back in a tight braid. The young couple quickly moved to each other and touched their middle and index fingers together affectionately. Both basked in each other's presence for a moment before they spoke. I've missed you, my mate, said Naruto. I've longed to see you as well, said Clara as the couple gently touched their foreheads together. Rafi looked a bit shocked as she watched the young Vulcan couple. What happened to the Vulcan salute? This is way over the top. Rella said disappointedly, I believe that's Naruto's mate. He keeps a hologram of her by his bed. Her ears drooped a bit. I had no idea, said Shar. The Trill said, she's beautiful. Samly felt a twinge of jealousy and then said, let's introduce ourselves to her. Brea was standing to the side feeling rather awkward. My always logical friend practically leapt at that guy. I assume he is her boyfriend. I'll never figure out Vulcans. Hey Clara, who is your friend? Clara turned to Brea and said, this is my mate Naruto. We are betrothed. Brea's eyes nearly popped out of her head. I had no idea. Samui and the rest of the think tank came over to introduce themselves, and Clara and Naruto quietly held hands as everyone else talked. For right now, just being together was enough. Chapter 15. Stardate 2271.344 Prometheus 12 System, USS Darwin. Ship's log, Stardate 2271.344. Captain Trent Aldridge commanding NCC 1802 USS Darwin. We were assigned to the Prometheus 12 system because as a galactic survey cruiser we have some of the best lab systems in Starfleet. Prometheus 12D was logged earlier this month as a Class M planet that possibly could serve as a future colony. The light survey cruiser NCC 962 USS Viking took long-distance scans of this world on her return from her last mission. Unusually enough, the world seems to be teeming with abundant plant life with little or no animal life. This is a matter of great scientific curiosity, as a planet evolving this way would be unique, and our biologists are very eager to set to work. At the security station stood the 23-year-old Lieutenant Junior Grade Shizuka Nadeshiko, an Earth-raised Vulcan asterisk. As acting security chief, she was at her bridge station. Her light green eyes scanned the tactical screen in the system, and she found no signs of any other vessels save the Darwin. "We are clear of hostiles, sir. Even the special sensors show no signs of any ships being here any time recently." "Excellent, Chief Nadeshiko," said Captain Aldridge. "Helm, set us in a standard orbit, nice and smooth. Science Officer Francesco, tell our people down in the labs that the port sensors are all theirs. Something tells me there is something big on this world." Shizuka had a mental chuckle. Captain Aldridge has the heart of an adventurer. He's like a little kid whenever we find a new world to map and explore. Aldridge clapped his hands together. "You know the drill, people. We'll be mapping for 2 hours to see if there are any signs of intelligent life before we send down an away team, probably our botany specialists." A chorus of aye, sir, spread throughout the bridge. Once again, the Darwin's outstanding crew was moving like a well-oiled machine. Shirkar City, planet Vulcan, Terra, and Sovar's house. Terra was in her everyday Vulcan brown robes fixing dinner with Talek when a call came in from Starfleet. Turning the dinner duties over to her 9-going-on-10-year-old daughter, the black-haired beauty went to private screen and went through the security checks to receive the call. Captain Vox's rather stern visage appeared on the screen, much to Terra's surprise. "Greetings, Captain Vox," said Terra to her superior officer as she gave the Vulcan salute. Vox returned the salute and said, "Terra, I'm calling you as your aunt, not your superior officer in Starfleet." Terra raised an eyebrow and said, "You are using a Starfleet frequency for a personal call?" The older woman said, "It's connected to Starfleet in a way. I met Naruto today. He looks just like you." "Did you now?" asked Terra. "Why would a full captain from Starfleet's Bureau of Design and Repair want to meet with a simple cadet?" Vox had humor in her eyes. "He acts just like you and your father, Terra. He even raises his eyebrow the same way. I had my hesitations about him at first, but then I realized how much he reminded me of my late twin brother and found myself enjoying the conversation." "You must be proud of him." "Did you inform Naruto you are his great-aunt?" asked the younger Vulcan woman. The captain frowned. "Of course I didn't. It was a formal meeting in the presence of my immediate superior. Besides, I wasn't sure what to make of him at first." "You always were so personable," said Terra sardonically. "So why did you meet with my son?" "We met with him because of a certain warp theorem he came up with," said Vox. "Perhaps you've heard of it?" "If you are referring to the curved transitional warp field theorem my son recently patented, then of course I know about it," said Terra. "Starfleet is interested in it," said Vox with a bit of pride in her voice. "Your father would have been thrilled if he was here today." Terra took a rather aggressive tone and asked, "How interested is Starfleet?" The older woman's eyes seemed to twinkle. "About 250 million credits in advance alone." Terra gasped. It took hours to hammer out an agreement. "Your son is a hard negotiator." "I can't give you the specifics on the contract as it is confidential, but suffice it to say your son will probably be able to buy a moon or something once the contract is fulfilled." "By the gods," thought Terra. Aunt Vok, are you intending to tell him you are his great-aunt? All in due time, my niece, said Vok. I have to tell you, this is Big Tara. I understand that you want to know more details, but as a fellow Starfleet officer I must keep things classified. Just know that Naruto is an exceptional young man. I personally am looking forward to getting to know him better. I must go. Peace and long life, Tara. Live long and prosper, Aunt Vok, replied the onyx-eyed beauty. Talek saw her mother come back in the kitchen and asked with a raised eyebrow, "What has my big brother done this time, Mama?" Tara gave a tiny smile and said, "Naruto has simply outdone himself again." The young girl shook her head. "He always has been an overachiever." "That he has," agreed Tara. "So are you." Talek gave a matching smile in return, and the two soon got back to finishing up dinner. Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, planet Earth. Clara and her friend Brea were touring the campus a bit until Naruto finished his afternoon classes. They'd already seen the Museum of Starfleet History and the Arts Center and decided to stop and have a late lunch at one of the many restaurants on campus. Lyra pulled out her tablet to check her finances before they ate at a place that was too expensive. The brunette beauty saw Naruto's monthly paycheck, her monthly paycheck N. 8 o'clock deposit, Starfleet payroll, Naruto Fao, 5,000 credits. 8:15 deposit, Starfleet payroll, Clara Tolaris, 2,500 credits. 11:30 deposit, Starfleet command, Naruto Fao, 250 million credits. Her brown eyes were big as saucers and her jaw dropped. WW what? Naruto Fao. What have you been up to? She screeched telepathically. Naruto was taking notes in class when he winced from Clyra's telepathic call from across the campus. What do you mean, Clyra? There are 250 million credits deposited in our credit account as of 11:30 this morning, thought Clyra to her mate. How the hell did it get there? Naruto sounded a bit embarrassed and said telepathically, I'm in class, Clyra. I promise I'll explain it all to you this evening. I'll be looking forward to hearing your explanation, Naruto, thought Clyra as she ended their conversation. Only my mate could make us multi-millionaires and forget to mention it, thought the brunette beauty nonplussed. Oh boy, thought the blonde hybrid. Later, Naruto asked, you know that warp theorem that I've been working on for years? Of course, I do, replied Clyra. It was your doctoral thesis after all. Well, I got it patented, you see, and Starfleet wanted a contract to use it, explained the blonde hybrid. So, I signed a contract with them to use it under license. The 250 million is the first half of the down payment and the second half will be paid when the first ship is complete. After that I will be paid a fee for every ship it's used upon, pending its success of course. Clyra looked at her mate in disbelief and said, of course it will be successful, you created it. Why would there be any doubt? Naruto gave a tiny smile and kissed Clyra softly on the lips. Thank you for your faith in my work. Regardless, we will have 500 million credits whether the tests are ultimately successful or not. Starfleet wants me to design a ship as well. The brunette's eyes widened and then she gave him a kiss in return. I always said you were too smart for your own good. What are we going to do with all that money? We could buy a moon, I guess, said Naruto with a shrug. Clyra said with a full smile, you are so illogical at times. Stardate 2271.345 Prometheus 12 System, USS Darwin. Ship's log, Stardate 2271.345. Captain Trent Aldridge reporting, our away team may have discovered why there are no animals. The samples of plants that they brought back were all dangerous by nature. 2 of my crew were poisoned, which our medical staff quickly took care of, but Ensign Pulaski was hit by a plant that actually fires spores and was badly injured. 3 others were hit as well, but their injuries are minor. Our medics are very concerned for Pulaski's survival as the spore infection is spreading very rapidly. Shizuka was in the officers' mess eating some lunch with her friend medical doctor Leah Walker *. Damn, Pulaski's a good kid and his life is hanging by a thread down in quarantine, said Shizuka. He just got out of the academy too. At least the others are all okay. Leah was poking at her food. Chief Medical Officer Caleb is doing all he can for Pulaski but dash. An alarm horn blared to life and the lighting went red. We have a breach in quarantine. I repeat, a breach in quarantine. Pulaski's body just exploded. All medical teams report in to help the injured. Damage control units respond. Jesus Christ, yelled Leah. Get to the bridge and coordinate Shizuka. I'm headed to the main sick bay to take care of the incoming wounded. Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth. Naruto and Tlyra were talking with Terra over subspace. So you've licensed that little warp theorem of yours, my son, said Terra. Very nicely done. Naruto's blue eyes widened. Mother, how did you know? I haven't even had a chance to inform you yet. Terra's eyes glinted with humor, and she said, mothers have ways of keeping up with their children. Getting the gobsmacked look from Naruto that amused her to no end, Terra said, your great Aunt Vok called and told me Naruto. Naruto blinked a couple of times and said Great Aunt Vok? I don't recall. Wait, do you mean Captain Vok from Design and Repair? His mother nodded. She sent you a gift for your Kazwan, but I doubt you ever opened it. I didn't open any of my Kazwan gifts except yours, as you are well aware, mother, said the blonde hybrid. Which side of the family is Vok from? Vokmfau is my late father Veritha's twin sister, explained the onyxide beauty. Her contact with the family has been sporadic at best since father died. They were very close, you see. That would explain why she was so personable with me, said Naruto acidly. Terra gave a tiny smile and said, she was quite pleased with you. You remind her of my father. Do I now? Asked Naruto. I guess that would explain why she left the contract negotiations to the others. Don't let Vok know that you are aware that she is your aunt, said Terra. Aunt Vok is playing some sort of game and we don't want to spoil it for her. I see, said Naruto nonplussed. Very well, mother, I'll play along with this game for your sake. That's my boy, beamed Terra. Let me talk to Tlyra, I haven't seen her lovely face in some time. Naruto handed the tablet to Tlyra, who said, Greetings, Mother Terra, it is so good to see you. It is good to see you, Tlyra. Naruto told me you had some trouble during training. Are you alright? Asked Terra. I am well, said Tlyra. It was frightening naturally, but I am fine. Did you really bite a man's finger off? Asked Terra with humor in her eyes. Tlyra's eyes widened and she kicked Naruto, off screen, for leaking that little tidbit. The brunette said, humans taste bad. Good to know, said Terra. It is Talek's turn to talk to you now. The young couple talked for the next 2 hours with Talek, Sovar, and Terra again before they bid their loved ones goodnight. All in all, they had a nice time. Did you have to kick me in the shin, Tlyra? Asked Naruto. It seemed like the logical thing to do at the time, she answered sweetly. Stardate 2271.347 Prometheus 12 System, USS Darwin. The bridge of the USS Darwin was a vision of hell incarnate as Lieutenant Junior Grade Shizuka Nadeshiko stepped onto it wearing a marine survival suit used for boarding party combat. She saw the remnants of Captain Aldridge and several others. They'd obviously been at point blank when one of the spore-infected crew members' bodies exploded. The remains of all the bodies were peppered with spores now. I hope they all died in an instant, thought the young Vulcan woman, trying to make herself feel better. It wasn't the first time that she'd seen such horrors, and she was able to keep from throwing up at the scene. Most of the Marines were still alive because they had access to the combat survival suits. Shizuka wasn't sure what officers were left alive and had ordered her Marines to treat the Darwin as hostile territory. Turning back into the turbolift, Shizuka activated her communicator and called to one of the remaining crew members in the emergency bridge. This is Nadeshiko, lock down the bridge. I repeat, lock down the bridge. It is contaminated with no survivors. This is Pizer in the emergency bridge, said Marine Sergeant Pizer. All ventilation to the bridge is locked down. All doors and turbolifts are locked down. Lieutenant, that's 45% of the ship quarantined. We've lost contact with the auxiliary control room as well. I'm on my way with Squad A, said Shizuka. Have we had any further contact with Chief Engineer Orwell? He's ranking officer as far as I know. Negative, ma'am, replied Pizer in a hollow tone. Shizuka hung her head. What's the closest team to engineering, Pizer? Pizer reported, Second Lieutenant Wilcox and Squad C are the closest. They are securing the transporter room. The Vulcan security chief ordered, coordinate with them and tell Wilcox to head to engineering when he's done in the transporter room, Nadeshiko out. Understood, ma'am. Pizer out, replied the sergeant. Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth. Personal log, stardate 2271.347. Having Clyra here with me has been a huge relief. Seeing her safe and well has lifted an immense weight off of my shoulders, to use a human term. I was very concerned about her given the assault on her person, but she says she is fine now that we are together. We have been at a hotel room here on campus reserved for guests for the past few days so that we may have some privacy. I truly doubt Clyra would appreciate Mrella's exhibitionism regardless. Clyra's friend Brea Mathuan is extremely gregarious and enjoys drinking a bit too much. Clyra says this is normal behavior for recruit Mathuan, but I find it vexing when she interrupts my mate and I. We have decided that Clyra and I will get some time together next time by renting a pair of speeders and going touring for the weekend. Clyra was looking at her mate across the coffee table. So how does one go about designing a fully fledged Federation starship when your only experience in the area is strictly in civilian designs? Naruto gave a tiny smile and said, I presume that the best way is to take an existing design that is successful and use it as a starting point. This light cruiser must be large enough to adapt to future design changes, but also to have some modular features so it can be adapted to different roles. I'm reading a design history on Federation vessels, and it seems that designs start small and tend to grow as the design progresses. I was told that I'm only limited by my imagination, but I still want something reasonable to present to the Bureau of Design and Repair. The brunette said, then you should start with the engines and build the ship around them. You already know astrodynamics, so once the power systems are figured out you can set your other parameters from there. Naruto pondered and said, so it would be designed like a speeder? Seeing her nod, he entered some data into his tablet and said, I can find no fault in your logic, Clyra. I already had the power plants figured out because I needed them to fit the architecture of my curved warp theorem. Perhaps I should let you design it instead. She gave a small smile in return and said, how about you design it and I just be your advisor? I couldn't ask for a better advisor than you, Clyra, said Naruto warmly. Stardate 2271.349 Prometheus 12 system. Ship's log, stardate 2271.349. Lieutenant Shizuka Nadeshiko reporting, the Galactic Survey Cruiser NCC 1802 USS Darwin has lost over 80% of its crew and the uninfected are hunting down the remaining infected crew members in boarding party combat survival suits. I am the only bridge officer left alive. As Chief of Security, I have to safeguard the remaining crew's lives at all costs. The fungal spores brought back by our away team have proven 100% lethal to all infected. A few willingly surrendered and died for the sake of their fellow crew members, but most have been gripped by madness and have savagely fought to the death or worse exploded into a shower of spores and spread the infection. I managed to activate the quarantine beacon from the emergency bridge to keep other ships away, so they won't suffer Darwin's fate. Shizuka saw an infected crewman that was covered with the telltale blue mushroom-like protrusions. They were even growing out of his eyes as he stumbled down the hall moaning mindlessly. Shizuka pulled her phaser rifle and clicked the setting to disintegrate. I have to vaporize him now. He's at the terminal stage and his body will burst and spread more spores. She fired the blue beam at her former comrade, and he vanished into nothingness. The security chief motioned the two Marines with her out with an all-clear sign. They came around the corner and set their sights on sick bay. She pounded on the door when it didn't open and noted it was locked. Hitting the communicator on the wall, Shizuka said, sick bay. Is anyone alive in there? This is Lieutenant Nadeshiko. If you are alive, give me a sign. Nothing, ma'am, said one of her Marines. Should we force the door? Shizuka stood back and said, do it. The two Marines quickly forced the door open and found the room was empty save for scorch marks. There had obviously been a shootout in the medical bay. There was only one active monitor and Shizuka went over to it. It had a message flashing on it and Shizuka said, "Computer, playback message." Her best friend, Dr. Leah Walker's face appeared on the screen. She was showing signs of infection and had a phaser wound in her shoulder. "I'm the last one alive in the sickbay medical lab," said the recording. "The spores can only live for 48 hours outside a human or animal body. They cannot infect plants. If anyone is seeing this and there are still infected crew members, then put on survival suits and cut the life support to kill the remaining infected personnel." Shizuka's eyes widened. Then Leah said, "I'm terminating myself now before the spores cause my body to erupt and spread further." This is Dr. Leah Walker signing off. Shizuka's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the burnt-out chair where Leah took her own life with a phaser. "Damn it all," she whispered. The security chief pulled out her communicator that was set on a coded frequency. All remaining personnel uninfected on this frequency pulled back to the staging area in the cargo bay. Repeat, pull back to the staging area in the cargo bay. 2 hours later, 53 uncontaminated people were in the cargo bay and an additional 9 were in the emergency bridge. They were all wearing survival suits with access to plenty of additional oxygen in external tanks. On the emergency bridge, Shizuka was standing at the panel to cut the life support and said, "Gods forgive me," before she punched the button. The ship's life support immediately shut down and the airlocks and shuttle bay doors opened, which caused the hull to rapidly depressurize. Both bodies and debris were blown out into space as the Darwin continued to orbit Prometheus 12D, leaving a macabre trail of death drifting behind her. Stardate 2271.351, Starfleet Academy, San Francisco, Planet Earth. Naruto and Clyra shared a very passionate kiss goodbye, in private, before the brunette and her friend Brea Mathuan got on the shuttle to their next training destination, which was in Paris on Earth. The blonde hybrid stood at the launch terminal platform for a long time before Mrella and the rest of the think tank pulled him back inside. Mrella patted Naruto's shoulder and said, "I'm sure you'll see each other again soon." The blonde hybrid nodded and said, "I believe getting back to my homework would be the best option." He spent the afternoon diligently working on his class assignments before turning in early for the night. Dream. Naruto was standing at the base of a flight of stairs inside a round stone tower. In the center of the tower was a raised dais that the stairs led up to. Everything seemed familiar to Naruto even though he'd never seen the place before. Is this an ancestral memory? He wondered aloud. It feels like one. It is not, said a woman's voice from the top of the stairs. Naruto's vision rose to the dais and beside it stood a beautiful white-haired woman with white eyes and horns. She also had a single red eye in the center of her forehead. Kaguya. He whispered. The blonde's voice was one of awe. She smiled down at him and said, "Hello Naruto, you've grown into a fine young man. This is not a dream but rather me contacting you, my grandchild." Naruto asked, "I am your grandchild?" The rabbit goddess nodded. "Yes, your first name was Ashura, though that's irrelevant now I suppose. You've reincarnated many times. I have something for you." Naruto looked warily at her and said, "I have seen the extinction of our people through my dreams." "It's not that. I know the memories of the shinobi have been ingrained in your very DNA and that of your future children," said Kaguya. "Our people were called the shinobi?" asked Naruto. "Those who practiced ninjutsu were a warrior class called shinobi," explained Kaguya. "Our race as a group simply referred to ourselves as humans like those of other worlds. But it was the shinobi that made our race grand. Those that wielded chakra made the world great but also led to the world's extinction. I blessed your mother with the honor of birthing you so that you would have the emotional control that our people lacked. You are the last of the shinobi. As I once was, you are the beginning of a new race." Naruto looked confused. "You wish for me to continue our lineage as a new race?" "Yes, the new shinobi will exceed their predecessors because they won't be foolish as I was," said Kaguya. "I had enormous power, more than all of the others really. But I developed a messiah complex that led to me being sealed away. I don't care to remember it, but it was only the death of all my descendants and centuries of contemplation that brought me back, so I am more of a spirit than anything. Naruto said, I suppose centuries of solitude would be lonely. It was necessary, I'm afraid, said Kagaya. The new shinobi you will father won't suffer the same fate as their ancestors. As I said though, I have something for you. You know many techniques that are so powerful that your body is incapable of using them, yes? Yes, that is true, said Naruto. I never understood why. That is because you do not know Sage Mode yet, Naruto, said the rabbit goddess. When you come to visit me in my garden, I will train you in Sage Mode to you as a gift. It is far too powerful to learn in dreams without supervision. I will give you that training and it will open doors to a new level of power that is your birthright. Then she smiled and said, I will call upon you again sometime in the future. When you are ready to make your journey here, I will be waiting, grandson. Dream end. Naruto awoke in his quarters and saw it was still before the sun came up. Mrella was still fast asleep, purring softly as she usually did. Naruto laid awake in bed pondering his future. Someday I must go to the world of Tori Prime 4 and learn the ways of this Sage Mode. Eventually Naruto let himself drift back into a dreamless sleep. Stardate 2271.353 USS Darwin. Ship's log, Stardate 2271.353. Acting Captain Shizuka Nadeshiko reporting, NCC 1802 USS Darwin has successfully repressurized, and we are in contact with Starfleet Command. The spores are dead thanks to Dr. Leah Walker's diligence. We've been given orders to lay in a course for Starbase 17 at Warp Factor 4 to rendezvous with our sister ship, NCC 1807 USS Sagan, so they may examine the Darwin and check for final decontamination. All 62 survivors are glad that the voyage on the Darwin will soon be over, as we all consider it a death ship now. We are lucky to have survived it all, but I for one will be haunted a long time by what I've seen. As the USS Darwin plowed through space, her remaining crew never stepped outside the areas that weren't cleared as uncontaminated. It wasn't just a matter of the former contamination, it was the gruesome remains that were too numerous to count. They rendezvoused with the USS Sagan on schedule and were soon docked in a floating repair dock outside Starbase 17. The Darwin's remaining crew was taken off the ship so the entire vessel could be completely decontaminated of all the possible foreign particles. Starfleet's engineers estimated that it would take 2 months before the ship would be fit for habitation again, and that was the estimate without physical repairs. As the Darwin was scheduled for a 6-month refit period the next year, it was decided that once decontamination was complete, she would be sent to Mars shipyards to complete her refit ahead of schedule by trading places with one of her sister ships. Shizuka was standing at attention with her shipmates where the Starbase commander Admiral Carroll was presiding over a memorial for all of those that died aboard USS Darwin. The bagpipes were played as they gave a ceremonial salute to those who died. After the ceremonies were over, Shizuka was promoted to full lieutenant and awarded the Federation Distinguished Service Cross. It wasn't worth it, was the only thought that ran through her mind as she respectfully accepted her award and rank pins. So, what are you planning to do now that you are a full lieutenant? Asked Second Lieutenant Wilcox. Shizuka was drinking with the Marine contingent. The security chief said, right now I'm going to drink. I've already put in for temporary leave back home on Earth. We all need to get our heads back together after what happened. Shizuka shook her head and looked out through the transparencies at the floating repair dock where the Darwin was lying dormant. It's been 2 years since I've seen my folks. What about you, Wilcox? I'm headed home myself, said Wilcox. I think we all are. There's just too much heartbreak out here. Space is a dangerous place. Starfleet Academy, Medical Hall, Psychiatric Offices. Once a month Sammy Schrödinger was to visit her handler because she was an Augment, and the recent events involving Khan Noonien Singh aboard the USS Enterprise made Starfleet hit the panic button. As it was, the beautiful blonde Augment girl was waiting outside her handler's office. He was over 2 meters tall and built like a pro wrestler. He had a shaved bald head and a goatee. She couldn't decide whether he had a degree in psychiatrics or if he was just an ex-parole officer Starfleet picked up off the street. His name, Maximilian Grissom. Hobbies: annoying Samly with obvious bias against her heritage. Talents: being a dick. Samly's pet name for him, the arsehole. Grissom looked up as he buzzed Samly into his office. Good afternoon, Miss Schrödinger, I see you are on time for our monthly meeting. The man's voice was dripping with derision. Samly sat herself down opposite the handler at his desk and said formally, Good afternoon, Handler Grissom. The big man wasted no time getting on with things. Upon reviewing your profile, I found your grades are exemplary as always and your behavior is within societal norms for a human being. Given I am a human being, I would think that would be expected, said the blonde curtly. That's a matter of perspective, said the handler. Let's get on with the interview. Grissom, do you feel your augmented abilities make you more suited to command than others? Monster. Samly, no sir. Jackass. Grissom, have you ever forced others to do your bidding with your enhanced strength? Freak. Samly, no, I have not. Idiot. Grissom, do you have the desire to hurt others or abuse them in any way? Devil's spawn. Samly, no. Arsehole. Grissom, have you been using any narcotics or other illegal substances to enhance yourself? Maniac. Samly, no sir, I haven't. Bastard. Grissom, have you had the urge to take command forcibly from others? Evil one. Samly, no. Sigh, moron. Grissom, have you had any megalomaniac urges this month? Demon. Samly, only when I'm on my period. Grissom, WHAAAAT? The interview went downhill quickly from there. That's it, guys, for this reading. I hope you liked it, and I thank you for your continued support. Please like and subscribe for a free ticket to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. I look forward to having you on board again.